Chapter 1893. Visiting the royal palace again. Let's give Kaya some time to herself. She's different from us. We came to the saints' world completely willingly, while Kaya had been brought here by you unknowingly. She'd naturally find it very difficult to become accustomed to a completely foreign world. She might not even accept it. However, everything will change with time. I believe in just a few months, Kaya will become completely used to the saints' world, said Shangguan Moor. Even though she was not on any particularly good or bad terms with Kaya, they came from the same world after all. In the huge foreign saints' world, they would find every single person who had come from the Tianyuan continent to be close. I don't know whether bringing Kaya to the saints' world was right or wrong, but if I didn't do that, it would have been impossible to wake her up, Jianchen murmured as he gazed in the direction that Kaya had disappeared off to. His feelings were rather mixed. However, he calmed down very soon. He said to Shangguan Moor, the Empyrean demon cult is invading the divine kingdom of Pingtian, and the divine king has summoned me to the royal capital for matters to discuss. Moor, I have to go to the royal capital immediately. Do you need me to come with you? I can help you out now. Shangguan Moor looked at Jianchen. In the past few years, when the Tianyuan clan developed, it had been single-handedly supported by Jianchen on the outside. The other people basically did nothing. Now that she had become an overgod, she hoped to be able to share some of Jianchen's burden. Jianchen shook his head. At a time like this, it's better if we don't reveal our true strength. It might be extremely effective in crucial times. I'll go to the royal capital by myself, while you stay and protect the clan, just in case. Speaking up to there, Jianchen took out the supreme quality saint artifact fairy how you had gifted to him from his space ring. He said, Moor, here's a defensive supreme quality saint artifact. It's extremely powerful. Now that war is basically looming over the horizon, refine it immediately. The armor will be most useful when you wear you. You should keep it. You are the Tianyuan clan's pillar of support. Shangguan Moor responded softly and pushed the armor away. Jianchen smiled faintly and forcefully shoved the armor into Shangguan Moor's arms. He said, you don't need to worry about me. My chaotic body is about to break through, so the armor won't be very useful to me. Moor, listen to me. Immediately refine the armor once I go, alright? I won't have to worry as much if you're protected by the armor. I'll be able to focus on dealing with my enemies. Afterwards, Jianchen left the Dong'an province and directly made his way towards the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Kaya made her way through the provincial city of the Dong'an province aimlessly, all by herself. She saw the people hurrying to and fro through the wide streets, saw the stores and stands that were filled with items on the two streets, and heard the hawkings and discussion that had mixed together. Confusion gradually filled her eyes. From time to time, she would raise her head and stare at the sky. Looking at the sky that was only a deep blue, her gaze seemed to penetrate it and arrive at the depths of the cosmos. The mixed hubbub in the streets and the people who moved through them made her feel a sense of great unfamiliarity. However, when she raised her head to look at the sky, she just happened to experience the exact opposite. Even though it was supposed to be unfamiliar as well, she felt that it was familiar. This sense of familiarity originated from the very depths of her heart. It confused her. She was puzzled at why she felt this. Suddenly, she slowly raised her white, slender hand towards the sky among so many passers-by. She gently clenched her hands and pulled down. She had performed the action completely subconsciously because from the bottom of her heart, the space seemed very weak. It was like she could rip through it easily, and she could unleash destructive might by just raising her hand. The outcome was very evident. Not only did she fail to rip through the sky, but she did not even create a ripple in space. Instead, her actions made her seem weird, attracting strange gazes from countless people on the street. Kaya did not seem to realize the things that were happening around her. She looked at her hand, and she became even more confused. At this moment, a thought grew stronger and stronger within her. She felt like she had forgotten something and lost something. But no matter how hard she thought and recalled, she could not think of anything. She even looked through her own life, beginning at the start, and making it all the way to the present. She recalled all her memories and discovered that she had not forgotten anything. Aside from the 100 years she had spent unconscious, She could remember everything else she had gone through in her life. Kaya leapt up. With her strength as a saint emperor, she leapt onto the roof of one of the nearby stores. She hugged her knees and sat down, raising her head and staring blankly at the sky. The store belonged to the Tianyuan clan. Many people naturally believed she was disrespecting the Tianyuan clan, since Kaya directly sat on its roof. From the store, an old man with a white beard immediately hovered out. However, he did not dare to fly higher than the shop. He stared at Kaya, who sat on the roof, hugging her knees, and bellowed furiously, "How dare you? Back off." However, before the old man could finish his words, an extremely dignified voice boomed in his head. A ruddy, sagely old man appeared in the sky on the other side. His long robes fluttered, and he possessed an otherworldly presence. He seemed like an otherworldly being. The old man was one of the elders of the Tianyuan clan, Andofu. Jianchen was worried that Kaya would find trouble all by herself in the city, so after giving her a medallion, he got Andofu to protect her secretly. This was because Kaya was just far too weak right now. She had not even reached the origin realm. She was a mere saint emperor. It was naturally extremely dangerous for her to move around in the city with strength like that. The old man who had emerged from the store only possessed strength at the peak of reciprocity. After seeing Andofu, he immediately became courteous and did not dare to utter another word. He returned to where he came from. Kaya did not realize what had happened at all. Her head remained raised as she stared at the sky blankly. It was as if there was nothing else besides the sky that made her experience a sliver of familiarity within the unfamiliar. Jianchen arrived in the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Under the lead of 2 female servants, he was directly taken to the central hall of the royal palace. Jianchen discovered that there were over a dozen people seated in there. They all sat on the seats with their legs crossed, and their eyes closed as they rested. When Jianchen appeared, all of them opened their eyes and stared at him. Many of them nodded towards him with kind intentions. He did not find these people to be unfamiliar. He had seen them before. They were the overgods from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. All the overgods in the divine kingdom had gathered in the hall, aside from Ling Hogong of the sword-seeking province. "Jianchen, you sure are great. You made us wait 3 days for you." At this moment, the seated Yang Kai shot a glance at Jianchen and said coldly. Chapter 1894. 3 armies. Yang Kai, the ancestor of the Yang family, had become a late overgod many years ago. Not only was he famed within the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but he was also well-renowned and influential in the neighboring divine kingdoms as well. At the same time, he was known as the most powerful expert below overgod in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Both his status and influence had surpassed the commander of the royal divine army, who possessed similar strength to him, Xiando. Even though this was due to the fact that Xiando always maintained a low profile and did not desire to excel over others, many people believed that Xiando was not as great as Yang Kai, which was why he behaved like that. As a result, Yang Kai was as dominant as the midday sun in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Only the divine king and the grand imperial protector were able to keep him at bay. However, his great fame had brought endless benefits to his Yang family as well. It allowed his Yang family to become known as the greatest clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian long ago, allowing them to enjoy great honor. They were held in veneration and greatly respected by people. However, this all changed after the battle between Yang Kai and the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen. In the battle, Yang Kai, who had been known as the most powerful below God King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, actually lost to Jianchen, the patriarch of a clan that had only been founded a few dozen years ago. Not only did Yang Kai lose his title of being the greatest below God King and his reputation, but even the Yang family was greatly affected. Their status was nowhere as great as the past. To Yang Kai, this was a disgrace, a permanent stain to his name. Although he was a late overgod, having cultivated for several dozen millennia, in no way was he a generous man. The humiliation he experienced after the battle had gradually transformed into a sense of hatred. He was no longer able to treat Jianchen like someone he could get along with now. Jianchen's expression remained the same. He glanced past Yang Kai indifferently before smiling apologetically. He clasped his fist at the overgods in the hall and said, "There was quite a lot of distance to travel, so I spent some time on the road. I've made you all wait. I deeply apologize." Ha ha ha, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is far too polite. Isn't it just 3 days? That's just a blink of an eye to us. Brother Jianchen, you're cursing me if you put it like that. I only arrived a little earlier than you. If you say it like that, wouldn't it be me who made everyone wait? The overgods on the seats all stood up after they heard Jianchen's words. They all clasped their fists at Jianchen with a smile as they spoke extremely politely. Clearly, Jianchen's prestige was far greater than Yang Kai's in the divine kingdom of Pingtian now. Aside from Yang Kai, all the overgods showed him respect. On the other hand, Yang Kai's face instantly sank deeply when he saw so many people support Jianchen. Jianchen ignored Yang Kai. After exchanging pleasantries with everyone, he directly made his way to his seat. The seats were placed in 2 rows, one on the left and one on the right, with a walkway through the center. Every single seat had a name engraved on it. Jianchen just happened to be seated at the very front on the right side. The seat happened to be the closest to the king's throne. Xian Dou sat in the second seat, right next to Jianchen. As for Yang Kai, he sat on the first seat on the left row. Jianchen just happened to sit in front of Yang Kai. Yang Kai glanced at Jianchen coldly before closing his eyes straightforwardly. Jianchen did not worry about Yang Kai. Yang Kai was not his opponent before, and now that he had become relatively stronger than before, Yang Kai was even less of an opponent now. Jianchen crossed his legs on the large, luxurious seat. He closed his eyes to rest, quietly waiting for the Divine King's arrival. Immediately, the hubbub Jianchen's arrival caused quietened again. It was completely silent now. His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, a loud and vigorous voice broke the silence in the hall. The eyes of all the overgods present snapped open at the same time, and they stood up from their seats. The Divine King walked in with a dragon's crown on his head, and the king's dragon robes on his body. He did not walk quickly, but whenever he took a step, the heartbeats of all the overgods seemed to resonate with it. Each step seemed to land on the hearts of the overgods, forming a tremendous, invisible pressure on them. All the overgods in the hall held their breaths at that moment. A sliver of respect appeared on their faces, and they could not help but lower their heads slightly. Jianchen's eyes shone brightly, and he also lowered his head slightly. He mumbled to himself inside. The Divine King is so powerful. Probably even the 9 late god kings I came across in the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair isn't as great as him. Jianchen understood that even among late god kings, there could be huge differences. Any person who could make it onto the god king's throne, regardless of whether they could make the rankings or not, would possess strength on par to late god kings. Making it into the rankings only required a cultivation level of late god king as well, but the people who held the top 10 rankings possessed strength equivalent to early infinite primes. They would be able to kill infinite primes directly as late god kings, which was extraordinary. I wonder if the Divine King has made it onto the God King's throne, Jianchen thought. He did not know the exact strength of the Divine King, but he felt that the Divine King was unfathomable. Greetings to His Majesty. The overgods below all bowed after the Divine King had sat down on his throne. There's no need to be so polite. Please be seated. The Divine King smiled faintly. He appeared amicable yet no less dignified. I think you all understand why I've summoned you all here today. Allow me to explain the exact strength of the 3 armies from the Empyrean demon cult. The Divine King said plainly. Even when the Divine King mentioned the 3 armies that were enough to cause the expressions of other Divine Kings to change, he remained composed and the same as before. Looking at how unworried the Divine King is, he seems very confident that we can repel the attacks from the Empyrean demon cult. Are those ancient empires going to take part? Jianchen guessed inside, as he always paid attention to the Divine King's expression. The Empyrean demon cult has a total of 9 armies. Apart from the first army, the 8 other armies basically possess the same power. The commander of the 9th army is Yan Wuming. He's a late god king and is known as the Blood God Hand because he knows an extremely powerful god-tier battle skill. Once he uses it, the sky and earth are dyed scarlet red. He can condense a huge, red hand that possesses shocking power. Unless it is those who have made it onto the God King's throne, there are very few God Kings who can stop Yin Wuming. The commander of the 8th Army is Luo Duo. He's also a late God King, and is known as the Bloodthirsty Butcher. He's cold and merciless and also extremely bloodthirsty. He once charged into a divine kingdom all by himself and slaughtered billions of people. There was not a single person left alive wherever he passed by. The boundless baleful presence caused all the vegetation in the divine kingdom to wilt. The commander of the 7th Army is Yashi Lian. She's also a late God King and is female. However, she's a transformed 9-tailed fox. Although she's the weakest out of the 9 army commanders, she's the most sly and the hardest to deal with. She possesses natural sexual charm and is skilled at charming her opponents. Those who have weak willpower fall for her charms extremely easily and lose all rationality. Reaching this point, the Divine King became stern. He stared at the overgods below him before his eyes stopped on Jian Chun. He warned seriously, "If you encounter the commander of the 7th Army, Yashi Lian, keep in mind that it's best if you don't see her or listen to her voice. With your strength, it's very easy for you to be led astray by her words and actions. This is because even a few God Kings can fall for her tricks if they aren't mentally strong." Chapter 1895. The cult's Hall of Protectors. Jian Chun, heed my advice in particular. Yashi Lian loves talented geniuses. If Yashi Lian learns of you, she'll definitely pay special attention to you. As a result, you have to be careful. The Divine King warned Jian Chun sternly. "Thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty. I will be careful." Jian Chun clasped his fists sternly. He did not believe the Divine King was telling lies. It would definitely be a huge problem if he caught the eye of the commander of the 7th Army. This was because the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian only possessed 2 God Kings, while the commanders of the 3 armies from the Empyrean demon cult were all late God Kings. Aside from the Divine King who Jian Chun could not see through at all, Jian Chun was able to roughly sense the Grand Imperial Protector. Even if the Grand Imperial Protector was a God King, he was not the opponent of any one of the 3 commanders. The Divine King continued, "Each army of the Empyrean demon cult possesses a set number of 100,000 people. However, any single one of their armies possess the power to easily crush our huge army that reaches into the millions. Just 100,000 people were able to easily wipe out an army that reached into the millions. This was definitely an astounding matter. Many overgods became extremely stern when they heard that. Even though they understood the strength of the 9 armies, they were unable to remain calm whenever someone mentioned it. Your Majesty, we won't be able to stop the 3 armies from the demonic cult at all when they come to invade," an overgod said painfully. A few of them were already ready to retreat. They would secretly move their clans away after the meeting and abandon all their businesses, leaving the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian for good. The Divine King said calmly, "It will indeed be a tough fight for our Divine Kingdom of Pingtian when the 3 armies invade. But that's all it will be. It won't be a devastating battle. The Empyrean demon cult won't be able to wipe out our Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, because those ancient empires have already sent reinforcements. They're currently on their way. Even the ruler of the southern region, the Blood Sun Empire, is paying attention to the situation here at all times. The Empyrean demon cult has already crossed their bottom line by destroying the Divine Kingdom of 3 Cauldrons. They won't let the Empyrean demon cult continue their advance so fearlessly anymore." What? The empires have already sent reinforcements? The Blood Sun Empire is also paying attention to the matters here? Your Majesty, is that true? Will the Blood Sun Empire send reinforcements to assist us? I never thought that the Blood Sun Empire would care about this matter so much. If the Blood Sun Empire steps in, the threat of the Empyrean demon cult will be eliminated instantly. If the Blood Sun Empire sends reinforcements, we can attack the headquarters of the demonic cult and get rid of them for good. Many overgods were overjoyed. What the Divine King had just said was a huge blessing without a single doubt. It allowed them to see a ray of hope in the darkness. The Blood Sun Empire had spurred them in particular. They were the rulers of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. They were on a whole different level compared to the ancient empires in terms of strength. Before the Blood Sun Empire, even ancient empires such as the Heavenly Moon Empire had to bow their heads in submission. The Heavenly Moon Empire was only an ancient empire. There were a total of 6 of them in the southern region, while the Blood Sun Empire was known as an eternal empire. It was the only eternal empire in the southern region. Only Jianchen's face remained unchanged. He remained stern with his eyebrows locked together. Even though he knew that there would be people from the empires who would come to provide reinforcement, they were only coming to protect the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Counterattacking or even ridding the Empyrean demon cult for good was basically impossible, let alone the eternal Blood Sun Empire in the south. But even the Tian Empire that had been known as an everlasting empire in the central region did not have that courage. This was because he had learnt some absolute secrets from the God King by Tong Tian's side, Qin Do. Probably even many God Kings had not heard of these secrets before. The Empyrean demon cult itself was nothing scary. On the cloud plane, there were many organizations that could wipe them out. However, the great elder behind the demonic cult made the organizations who stood at the very top feel fear. At this moment, Jianchen stood up and clasped his hands. Your Majesty, are there no other God Kings apart from the commanders of the 3 armies attacking our divine kingdom? Jianchen was indeed very doubtful. All the commanders of the 3 armies were late God Kings, so logically speaking, there should have been a few early God Kings and mid-God Kings as deputies. In many armies, there would be generals of the left and right wings as well as deputy commanders. How could the Empyrean demon cult's 9 powerful armies not even have a deputy commander? There is indeed only one God King in each army of the Empyrean demon cult, and they're all late God Kings. The divine king sank into his thoughts and said slowly, according to my understanding, the Empyrean demon cult has a hall of protectors aside from the 9 armies. Once an overgod in the armies becomes a God King, they immediately leave the army and become a protector. At the same time, each protector is a successor to the 9 commanders. Once a commander falls in battle, the new commander will be chosen from the protectors. Your Majesty, may I ask just how many people there are in the Hall of Protectors? Bing Lu from the Yubing clan of the Frigid Snow Province asked. He no longer seemed as old as before. There was a faint, healthy glow on his face now. During these years, Bing Lu's strength had clearly increased by quite a lot. He was now a mid-overgod. This time, the Divine King fell into a period of lengthy silence. He only sighed after quite a while and said, probably even the experts from the empires won't be able to answer this question. However, you don't need to worry about that. It's enough as long as you understand that the Empyrean demon cult won't be able to get past our divine kingdom of Pingtian. All I require is your full strength when the war begins, so we don't get dirty looks from the people of the empires. I've said everything that I need to say. You all go prepare for battle. The divine king waved his hand and ended the meeting. After dispersing, everyone thought back to the Empyrean demon cult's hall of protectors mentioned in the meeting, including Jianchen. Their expressions constantly changed. From how the divine king had responded, he clearly had no idea about the hall of protectors. Otherwise, he would never have remained silent for so long. Looks like there should be quite a few protectors in the hall of protectors, concluded many overgods. They all became extremely stern. They've created a hall for protectors. Just how many God Kings does the Empyrean demon cult possess? Jianchen wondered as he felt astounded. From the start till the end, no one mentioned the 3 overgods that Jianchen had slain. Even Yang Kai, who resented Jianchen, did not speak a word of it. This was because they all understood that the invasion of the 3 armies actually had nothing to do with the 3 overgods. 3 overgods were not worth a war for the Empyrean demon cult. And it was not why they had directly mobilized 3 armies. They had even received news that in this attack, the Empyrean demon cult had not just mobilized the 7th, 8th and 9th armies. They had mobilized their 6 other armies as well. The 9 armies split into 3, attacking the southern region, the northern region, and the western region. Chapter 1896. Kaya and Chanlong people constantly poured in and out of the great city gates of the provincial city in the Dong'an province. A large number of armored soldiers were stationed at each city gate, and deities were watching over the operations secretly. As one of the 6 great provincial cities in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the Dong'an province was also the base of the Tianyuan clan. It was so renowned that it attracted countless people to come in admiration. Of course, many people had obviously come to trade or avoid problems. They wanted to borrow the anti-violence rules of the provincial city to avoid their enemies killing them. However, everyone who entered the provincial city had to pay a certain amount of divine crystals to the guards at the city gates in exchange for a medallion. They would buy the time they could spend in the city through the medallion. Not only did the provincial city strictly forbid fighting, but origin energy was abundant as well. Cultivating within the city was much faster than doing so outside, and there was completely no need to worry about attacks from powerful beasts. As a result, many people were extremely happy with cultivating in the provincial city. Although some people would ignore the rules the Tianyuan clan set down in the Dong'an province and directly hurt people, such occurrences were extremely rare. In other words, it was still far safer than the wilderness outside. Today, Chanlong, who was known as a formations master, was squeezed together with all the people who were about to enter the provincial city. He wore white robes and completely concealed his presence, slowly approaching the east city gates with the crowd. Right now, Chanlong only seemed like an ordinary old man. He did not stand out at all in the crowd, making it very difficult to imagine that he was a late overgod and a famed formations master in the surrounding divine kingdoms. It was even more difficult to imagine that with his strength and status, he would actually choose to line up with the ordinary people when he made his way into the city. He could only set foot inside after paying up the divine crystals for a medallion, which was used to stay in the city. I've already entered the provincial city, and I've hidden my presence with a secret technique. Even if Jianchen is in the city, he can't find me. Where is my chance at survival that you were talking about? Master Chanlong strolled through the streets leisurely as he secretly communicated with the trapped soul. Master Chanlong's feelings became rather mixed as he stared at the scenery of the provincial city. Thinking back to the past, he had ambushed Jianchen here. He cast down a huge formation to lock down the entire city in an attempt to kill Jianchen here. Unfortunately, Jianchen sensed him beforehand and managed to escape from the provincial city. In the end, he engaged in an intense battle 100 kilometers away from the city with Jianchen. Master Chanlong almost managed to kill Jianchen in that battle, but at the same time, he had almost lost his life to Jianchen. Now he had returned to the provincial city again, and his intentions were not to kill Jianchen but to find the chance of survival the trapped soul mentioned. Jianchen's talent was too great, and he grew too fast. Coupled with the constant mutterings of the trapped soul, he was gradually influenced. Old man Chanlong, you better treasure the last few years of your life. I can already see your future. You won't be able to live for another 100 years. Old man Chanlong, I can already see your forehead being pierced, and your soul being wiped out by Jianchen. I can already see when Jianchen cuts off your head, he said. As a result, Master Chanlong began to firmly believe the words of the trapped soul. In order to avoid dying to Jianchen's hands in a few decades, he had hurried back here from the Heavenly Moon Empire. Master Chanlong deeply understood just how powerful the trapped soul was after what he went through in the past years. He basically possessed the power to tell the future. Everything he mentioned would happen in the end. The fortune of the provincial city is a mess. A layer of mist seems to cover it. I can only see that your chance of survival lies here. I can't see exactly where though. Old man Chanlong, it'll be up to your luck next. I won't be able to help you out, said the trapped soul. Master Chanlong said nothing. Before long, he entered an inn and reserved an average room to avoid attracting attention. He ordered some dishes on the first floor of the inn and began eating in an inconspicuous corner. Of course, this was all just a cover. People moved about in places like inns often. Such places were very convenient for learning about things. He firmly believed that if the provincial city possessed a chance for his survival, the city definitely would not be peaceful. Something abnormal or special would definitely happen. Master Chanlong's words and actions had become cautious now that he was here. He maintained an extremely low profile. He did not even show himself in public much at all. and he was not even bold enough to use the senses of his soul. He was afraid that Jianchen was still in the city, and would discover his existence. If someone exposed the fact that he had entered the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the Grand Imperial Protector would hunt him down. Otherwise, it would have never been so difficult for him to obtain information as a late-over god. At the same time, Kaya wandered through the streets of the provincial city aimlessly. She would look at the surroundings sometimes and the sky at other times. Confusion filled her face. She had already moved around like this for 2 whole days. Of course, let alone 2 days, even walking for 2 years was nothing to a saint emperor like her. Just when Kaya walked by an ordinary inn, she seemed to sense something that drew her gaze over. She suddenly glanced at the inn and could not help but enter it. When a person entered an unfamiliar environment, the first thing they would do would be to look around subconsciously and observe the environment. However, when Kaya entered the inn, she did not look around to learn the environment at all. Something clearly attracted her gaze, so she directly looked towards an inconspicuous corner. To no surprise, that was where Master Chanlong sat. Kaya's gaze directly landed on Master Chanlong. She stared at him blankly as a sliver of confusion gradually appeared in her eyes. At the same time, Master Chanlong raised his head and stared at Kaya calmly. He was no longer able to shift his gaze after that. As a late-over god, he would have never paid any attention to a mere saint emperor. Even if the saint emperor looked at him, he would not pay any attention to them at all. However, the moment Kaya entered the inn, Master Chanlong actually could not help but raise his head as if it was beyond his control. His gaze landed on Kaya. What a weak level of cultivation. Strange. Who is this person? Why do I feel a sense of familiarity when I glance at her? Master Chanlong stared at Kaya as his old eyes revealed suspicion. Old man Chanlong, have you noticed that girl? Who is she? Why do I feel like I know her as soon as she has appeared? But I've clearly never seen her before. At the same time, the trapped soul spoke doubtfully. At this moment, Kaya moved. She arrived before Master Chanlong at a steady pace and stared at him in confusion. She asked gently, "Who are you? Have we met somewhere before?" As she said that, Kaya would look towards Master Chanlong's space ring from time to time. Kaya clearly experienced the same feeling from the trapped soul as Master Chanlong. The 3 of them felt like they knew each other. Chapter 1897. Jian Chen's return. Kaya's words astounded Master Chanlong slightly. His old eyes flickered as he stared at Kaya uneasily. His expression was rather strange. Afterwards, he furrowed his brows lightly and revealed his confusion. At the moment he saw Kaya, he had experienced an unknown sense of familiarity. It was unknown because he was certain that he had never seen this woman in his life before. Even when ignoring the fact that Chanlong had never possessed a true friend ever since he began cultivating, Kaya was so weak. She was only a mere saint emperor. Even if he did see her in the past, he definitely would not have remembered her. In his eyes, a person like her was an ant-like existence. Naturally, it was impossible for him to experience a sense of familiarity from an ant. That was exactly why it was strange. Not only did he feel an unknown sense of familiarity, but Kaya herself also seemed to feel the same indescribable feeling as him from her words. Master Chanlong was unable to understand why, no matter how hard he thought about it. Moreover, the part that filled Master Chanlong with disbelief was that even the soul trapped in his formation banners felt the same feeling towards Kaya. As a result, the matter had become far more complicated than it seemed. "Who are you?" Master Chanlong responded with a question as he stared at Kaya. At that moment, even he, a mighty late-over god, became somewhat confused. "I'm Kaya." Kaya stared at Master Chanlong with a similar gaze, glancing at the space ring on his finger from time to time. Curiosity filled her eyes as she asked, "There's also something that gives me a sense of familiarity in your space ring. This feeling, it seems to be the same as the feeling you give me." Kaya's words stunned Master Chanlong. His old eyes immediately widened as he stared at Kaya in shock and disbelief. Naturally, he knew what Kaya felt, a sense of familiarity within his space ring. It was definitely the soul trapped in the formation banners that could tell the future. How can this girl sense what is in my space ring? Let alone her, A puny saint emperor. Even god kings can't do that. Master Chanlong struggled to remain calm as he secretly conversed with the trapped soul. Old man Chanlong, don't ask me. I don't know what this is all about either. I actually can't see through this woman before me at all. She's like a cloud of mist, said the trapped soul. Master Chanlong remained silently for a while before gradually calming down. He stared at Kaya curiously with mixed feelings. The sense of familiarity with Kaya grew stronger and stronger within him, unconsciously affected him. It caused Master Chanlong's opinion of Kaya to change silently. Master Chanlong invited Kaya to sit down. He did not put on any airs as an overgod, and instead conversed with Kaya in an approachable manner. They were like old friends talking about the past. Just who is this woman called Kaya? Who is she? I clearly haven't seen her before, so why do I feel that she's familiar? The trapped constantly mumbled within the space ring as Chanlong and Kaya conversed. He scratched his head, but he was unable to think of any reason. Kaya and Master Chanlong became more and more friendly, while the sense of familiarity grew stronger and stronger. They did not feel distant with each other at all. This made them both feel strange, as if they were originally close friends or something. Kaya, looks like you and I really are fated to meet. However, your cultivation is low right now, so it's very easy for you to come across danger. Why don't you stick with me for now? Take these 3 protective formation discs. Each disc can block an attack from a late overgod. Also, take this jade pendant with you at all times. I can come to save your life at crucial times. These high-grade divine crystals can allow your strength to increase quickly. Master Chanlong took out a great pile of things from his space ring and placed it before Kaya. Even Master Chanlong himself felt a sense of disbelief. He was actually gifting someone he had just met so many things. If it were in the past, he would have never believed he could be so generous. High-grade divine crystals were nothing to him, but the 3 formations discs that could block attacks from late overgods were priceless. It was extremely difficult to create each one, and the jade pendant was even more valuable. Not only was it a high-quality saint artifact, but it was also a treasure that could defend automatically. Once attacked, the pendant would activate by itself and form an extremely powerful light screen. If all of its power was unleashed, it could even last for a while before ordinary late overgods. Without any exaggeration, Master Chanlong had gifted away a quarter of his wealth. Yet, Master Chanlong just wanted to help Kaya with everything he had when he saw how weak she was right now. This was like how Jianchen treated his friends and family. Selflessly. He would always find a way to use all the resources on hand, so that they could strengthen up. Senior Chanlong, thank you for your kind intentions, but I can't just take so many of your things without any reason. Moreover, I don't lack such items. Jianchen has given me quite a lot. Kaya thanked him before pushing all of Master Chanlong's things back to him. What? Jianchen? The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen? The light in Master Chanlong's eyes flickered as he became stern. That's right, he's the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. He's my friend, said Kaya. Master Chanlong immediately became uneasy. At the same time, a streak of light flew through the air outside the provincial city quickly. In just the blink of an eye, it had entered the city. Jianchen had already returned from the royal capital. He rode the startling rainbow sword and entered the city as a resplendent streak of light. I wonder what Kaya's condition is after these days. Has she accepted the saint's world? Jianchen thought of Kaya as soon as he entered the provincial city. He flew towards the Tianyuan clan on the startling rainbow sword, and expanded the senses of his soul as well. He engulfed the entire city in search of Kaya's whereabouts. With his senses at the level of late overgods, he found Kaya without any effort at all. However, his face suddenly changed and heavy killing intent instantly appeared in his eyes. He said coldly, Chanlong, you're looking to die. Jianchen's direction of advance suddenly changed. His speed erupted at that moment. Sword chi permeated his surroundings as the startling rainbow sword shone brightly. He turned into a streak of light, shooting off in Kaya's direction with unbelievable speed. At the same time, Master Chanlong discovered Jianchen's arrival. He instantly became stern, and an azure disc appeared in his right hand. It shone with bright, azure light as countless profound inscriptions flashed about. He held a set of formation banners in his left hand while the trapped soul became stern as well. Chapter 1898. People from the Earth Spirit Sect. Oh no, Jianchen has discovered you now. He's extremely powerful. Old man Chanlong, if you say you had the power to kill Jianchen or escape from him in the past, you're definitely not his opponent now. He really is a prodigy for his strength to increase so quickly. The trapped soul murmured. Its voice was filled with amazement. Even with the entire Saints world in perspective, there were only a handful of people who possessed talent like Jianchen. However, the trapped soul frowned soon after. But it doesn't make sense. I clearly saw a chance for you to survive in the Dong'an province, so why did you encounter Jianchen now? Where's that chance to survive now that you've encountered Jianchen? Your predictions have been rather accurate every time, but you've clearly miscalculated this time. However, it's not too big of a deal. Even if Jianchen's strength has grown dramatically in the past few years, I'm not afraid of him, said Master Chanlong. The powerful origin energy that belonged to a late overgod churned secretly within his body, rampaging about like a huge river. Standing before him, Kaya could not help but become doubtful and confused when she saw how Master Chanlong had suddenly become stern. He had also taken out his azure disc and formation banners. Just when she wanted to ask him about it, an extremely tremendous presence suddenly crushed down from the sky. It immediately caused the expressions of all the people in the inn to change drastically. Even the formation that protected the inn creaked as if it bore a heavy burden. It was like it was about to shatter from the tremendous presence. A ball of light shone brightly like the sun. It shot over from the distance like a bolt of lightning, moving extremely quickly. It had completely surpassed the level where gods could catch a glimpse of it. Only overgods could sense it now. In a short instance, the streak of light made a beeline for the inn where Kaya was. Kaya only saw a flash and a white-robed man appeared before her, as if he had teleported there. He stood with his back towards her between Master Chanlong and her. Jianchen. Kaya basically recognized the familiar back instantly, and she became surprised. Kaya, go back to the clan first. It's not safe here, Jianchen said without even turning back. He spoke very gently, but he stared at Master Chanlong closely. He was cautious and on guard. He did not know of the relationship between Kaya and Master Chanlong. He only knew that he could not attack Master Chanlong with Kaya right by his side at the moment. Kaya would not be able to endure the battle shockwaves from overgods as a mere Saint Emperor. Master Chanlong, you're a mighty overgod after all. You shouldn't take a weak person as a hostage against me. Jianchen glared at Master Chanlong as he growled. Right now, he was very worried that Master Chanlong would strike out first. He had no need to fear Master Chanlong at all with his current strength. As a matter of fact, under his full strength, Master Chanlong would not even be able to cast down formations. However, he would not be able to ensure the safety of Kaya who was beside him. If Kaya were a god, Jianchen would not need to worry as much because gods would be able to resist the battle shockwaves. However, Kaya was only a Saint Emperor right now. Saint Emperors were no different from mortals before overgods. Jianchen. You sure think highly of yourself, Master Chanlong sneered. Yeah, kiddo. You sure think highly of yourself. Even if you're a prodigy, you still don't have the right for Old Man Chanlong to take hostages in an attempt to threaten you. Old Man Chanlong isn't any great person, but at the very least he respects his own status, said the trapped soul. His voice drifted out from the formation's banners. Kaya could sense the hostility in Jianchen and Master Chanlong's words. He ignored Jianchen's urgings and stood between the two of them. She said to Jianchen, Jianchen, what are you doing? Chanlong is my friend. Why would he use me as a hostage against you? You've misunderstood. Kaya also realized there were probably grievances between Jianchen and Master Chanlong. What did you say? Friends. Jianchen stared at Kaya in surprise as he became dumbfounded. He was basically doubting his ears. Just how long had Kaya spent in the Saints' world? How long ago had she woken up? Moreover, there was a great disparity in strength between her and Master Chanlong, where one was heaven and the other was earth. How could they have become friends? Kaya stopped the aggressive Jianchen and explained. Jianchen, I know you don't believe me. Although we've just met, we became fast friends. I have indeed treated Chanlong as a friend of mine. He's my best friend beside you. Jianchen sighed gently when he saw how serious Kaya was. She did not seem to be joking. Jianchen said, Kaya, you still haven't truly understood the person before you. Chanlong is a mighty late overgod and a formations master. His status is so great, so how can he treat you with any importance? Master Chanlong spoke up. He said emotionlessly as he held an azure disc in one hand and a set of formation banners in the other. Jianchen, I disdain explaining it to you, but as this directly relates to Kaya's trust in me, I must say something. That's right. I am indeed a late overgod and a formations master. I am renowned in this region, but I have indeed become fast friends with Miss Kaya. In just the short time we spent together, she has become my first friend. Jianchen sneered. Chanlong, do you think I'd believe you? You're probably doing this with other intentions. However, no matter what they are, I won't let you leave so easily today. Jianchen gripped the startling rainbow sword as his presence surged. It had already locked onto Chanlong. At this very moment, a black figure charged into the inn with lightning speed. It arrived before Jianchen in a single instance and grabbed Kaya by the shoulder, taking her out of the inn. Jianchen had always remained on guard against Master Chanlong. He did not stop the black figure at all. The black figure was Shunjian in black robes. Jianchen had already contacted Shunjian, using his soul during his stalemate against Master Chanlong. He got Shunjian to take Kaya away. As long as Kaya was present, he would be held back. He would not be bold enough to engage in a battle against Chanlong. Even though this would reveal Shunjian's existence, Jianchen could not think too much about it for the sake of Kaya's safety. I never thought that there would actually be a second overgod in the Tianyuan clan. Master Chanlong stared at Jianchen emotionlessly. Chanlong, it's time for us to settle the grievances we built up in the past. You were lucky when you escaped last time. Today you're done for. The startling rainbow sword in Jianchen's hands surged with sharp light. He pointed it at Master Chanlong. You think I'm doomed? You still don't have that power, Jianchen, sneered Master Chanlong. The azure disc in his hand glowed brightly, and a huge formation appeared, revolving around his body. A huge battle was about to erupt. However, at this moment both of their faces changed, and they looked in the same direction. At the next moment, 7 tremendous presences surged out. It enveloped the entire Dong'an province in an extremely brutal manner. Each presence was at the level of overgods, and there were quite a few late overgods among them. The 7 great protectors of the Earth Spirit sect from the Heavenly Moon Empire have arrived. Who is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan? Why don't you come and receive us immediately? Is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, present? Come receive us on your knees. That's right, on your knees. You better move quickly. Don't make us wait, or don't blame us for removing your Tianyuan clan from existence. For clear voices boomed through the air, reaching every corner of the provincial city. Their voices were forceful, arrogant, and condescending. Chapter 1899. Attack. The voices of the protectors from the Earth Spirit sect boomed through the entire provincial city. At that moment, countless people stopped what they were doing no matter how important it was. They all stared at the sky in surprise, looking around for the source of the voices. Ever since Jianchen defeated Yang Kai of the Yang family, the Tianyuan clan had become the greatest clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, replacing the Yang family. Additionally, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, had become known as the greatest expert below god kings in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Not to mention the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but he was even famed in the neighboring divine kingdoms. No one dared to provoke him. However, not only had someone provoked Jianchen, but they even spoke without any mercy at all. They arrogantly asked for Jianchen to receive them on his knees. The boldness stunned many people. In particular, the final sentence that mentioned they would remove the Tianyuan clan from existence shocked all the people in the provincial city. Who is it? Aren't they just too arrogant? Shouldn't they have a look at what the Tianyuan clan is? They're the most powerful overgod clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian now. What place is the Heavenly Moon Empire? I've never heard of it. And what is this Earth Spirit sect? They seem pretty powerful. They've sent 7 protectors that act so arrogantly, completely looking down on the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The Tian Yuan clan cannot be offended. Although I don't know who they are, I believe the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan will never spare them. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is a powerful, vicious person. I heard he killed 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult in just a few moves. That's equivalent to the ancestors of large clans. They're all peak experts in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Discussions rose up around the city, but without any exceptions, most of the people held great confidence for the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. There were even many people who looked forward to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, teaching a lesson to the big-mouthed people who had come to cause trouble. Many of them had not heard of the Earth Spirit sect and the Heavenly Moon Empire before. Only a small fraction of the gods had heard of the Earth Spirit sect before. They became stern as they worried for the Tian Yuan clan. The 2 remaining gods in the Wainer clan heard the calls across the entire city as well, and they became extremely excited. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect have come. Xiao Yin is also a protector. They should be his seniors and juniors. Quick, go contact Xiao Yin. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect have come to support our Wainer clan. Fantastic, that's just fantastic. Today is the day we rise up. The 2 gods who were even older than Wainer Yin scurried excitedly to where Wainer Yin cultivated as quickly as they could. At the same time, Jianchen frowned. When he heard the protector's words, a vicious light immediately flashed through his eyes. He immediately abandoned Master Chanlong and shot off as a streak of light. Jianchen hovered above the huge city walls outside the provincial city. He stared ahead sharply and emotionlessly. Before him stood 7 people in uniform attires. They had their arms crossed, and they looked at Jianchen arrogantly as if he was nothing. There were a total of 5 men among the 7 of them, and 2 of them seemed to be close to middle age. Their lips seemed to have curled into a sneer as their gazes towards Jianchen were filled with evident coldness. The 2 of them were also the most powerful among the 7. They were late overgods. The other 3 men retained a youthful appearance. There were 2 early overgods and 1 mid-overgod. The last 2 people were women who seemed to be around 20 years old. They wore long dresses that showed off their beautiful, slender figures. They were quite pretty. The 2 women were both mid-overgods. As soon as we called for Jianchen of the Tian Yuan clan, you immediately appeared. Are you Jianchen from the Tian Yuan clan? An early overgod young man studied Jianchen. His arms were crossed as he said leisurely. He seemed like he was fooling around. That's right. I'm the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen. However, this is the Dong'an province, not your Earth Spirit sect. As a result, please dismiss the arrogance you possess in the Earth Spirit sect when you come here, Jianchen said calmly. The young man laughed when he heard that. He stared at Jianchen like he was challenging him and said, "Oh, you're actually threatening us now. But that's exactly what we're going to do to you. What can you do about it?" Junior 2, stop wasting so many words on him. Jianchen, haven't you heard what we said before? Why don't you kneel when you receive us 7 great protectors? The other early overgod said sternly. The 5 other mid and late overgods hovered in the air, as they stared at Jianchen coldly with crossed arms. Their gazes were threatening as if they were not disdained to talk to Jianchen with their arrogance. Jianchen's eyes became cold when he was faced with the naked provocation of the protectors. He said coldly, "Even 2 puny ants dare to ask me to kneel? Are all the people from the Earth Spirit sect like this?" Jianchen's voice was also filled with deep disdain. He was not exaggerating things either. With his current strength, early overgods were indeed like ants before him. However, the faces of the 2 early overgods sank. Killing intent filled their eyes as they said coldly, "Jianchen, you're looking to die. Allow me to show you what happens when you underestimate the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect." With that, the 2 of them took out their saint artifacts and directly attacked Jianchen. Gushing sword chi startles the heavens. The 2 early overgods called out. They swung their swords and sent two huge strands of sword chi through the air that shot towards Jian Chun with lightning speed. The 5 other protectors all stared at Jian Chun in great interest when the two people struck out. They wanted to witness Jian Chun's strength through the two of them. They had just hurried over from the Earth Spirit sect, so they did not understand Jian Chun's true strength too well. They only knew that their junior, Weiner Yan, had suffered a defeat at Jian Chun's hands. However, Weiner Yan was also an early overgod when that happened. He was roughly just as powerful as the two people who attacked Jian Chun. The two early overgods had struck out together. Moreover, they had used a secret technique from their sect, so they were much more powerful than regular overgods. Together, they could take on a mid-overgod in a battle. Chapter 1900. Single stroke beheading. The two strands of sword chi shone brightly, illuminating the surroundings. It really did possess a presence that it could startle the heavens. They were extremely swift, and when they shot out, it was coupled with a crisp thrum of the sword that the great vibrations from the swords in the hands of the two early overgods created. The two strands of sword chi locked onto Jian Chun's presence tightly. They crossed over to him instantly in an unstoppable manner. The powerful origin energy that belonged to an early overgod and the laws of the world mingled together, falling down onto Jian Chun like a huge net to seal off any path of escape. Jian Chun's eyes narrowed slightly. The two of them really did come from a large sect after all. As soon as they attacked him, the strength they displayed probably could not be matched up to by any other early overgod. In particular, the battle skills they used seemed to possess the might of mid-overgods. Impressive battle skill, but it's a pity that the people using it are a little too weak, just like two ants. It's like even if they can lift up things that are far heavier than themselves, they're still puny. How would they be able to threaten a huge beast? Jian Chun said scornfully. Heavy killing intent flashed through his eyes. Suddenly, the startling rainbow sword exploded with light. A powerful sword intent radiated from Jian Chun. The sword had turned into a blur the moment he stabbed out. His strike seemed to be able to tear through the laws. It seemed to have condensed the truths of the world and followed a natural trajectory. The simple strike was devastating. The expressions of the two early overgods from the Earth Spirit sect changed. They stared at Jian Chun in shock. They thought that they had understood Jian Chun's strength, but they had never expected he would be so powerful. Just that strike alone made them feel the danger of death. At the same time, it also made them feel like they had ended up in hell. The two protectors were shocked and filled with disbelief. They knew that Jian Chun was not weak. After all, even their junior Weiner Yan had been defeated by him. However, with their strength combined, they could even last a while against a late overgod, even if they could not win. However, let alone last a while, they could not even take a single strike from Jian Chun. Oh no! The expressions of the two late overgods from the Earth Spirit sect changed. Jian Chun's attack was so powerful that even they felt a great threat. It was impossible for their early overgod juniors to block the attack. The two late overgods immediately stepped in, charging towards Jian Chun as quickly as possible. They wanted to block Jian Chun's attack for their juniors. However, it was impossible for Jian Chun to let them do they wished. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had arrived with great hostility, and they had even made rude remarks about him. They had demanded him to receive them on his knees. Jian Chun could never just let them go like that. Not to mention that he would probably end up fighting the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect today anyways. Since that was going to happen, it was better for him to take advantage of the situation and heavily injure them, so that their power was reduced. Boom. The two strands of sword chi from the early overgods collided with Jian Chun's attack. The strands of sword chi were as fragile as paper, directly exploding in the air. With a great boom, a huge, visible sound wave appeared, causing the great walls of the provincial city to tremble slightly. Formations appeared. Meanwhile, Jian Chun's startling rainbow sword continued onwards at the same speed. It shone with dazzling white light, and directly cleaved through the shockwaves from the two strands of sword chi. It landed on the necks of the two protectors mercilessly. The strike was extremely fast. It came and went in a split second. The two late overgods from the Earth Spirit sect wanted to support the early overgods, but they were too late. Stop Jianchen. If you dare to touch Junior 2 and Junior Lei, we'll definitely show you what will happen today. We'll remove your Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province. A late overgod threatened loudly. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, if you even touch a hair on Juniors 2 and Lei, your Tian Yuan clan will meet its maker today. No one will be spared. The other late overgod added aggressively. Although Jianchen had displayed extraordinary strength, they still looked down on him. After all, they came from the Earth Spirit sect of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Originating from a large sect, they possessed a natural sense of superiority. After coming to the countryside like the divine kingdom of Pingtian, they naturally believed that they were far greater than the people here, as if they ruled over them. However, Jianchen did not stop at all when he heard their threats. Instead, a vicious light flashed through his eyes and killing intent surged. He only wanted to teach them a slight lesson in the beginning by incapacitating them. However, he decided that he needed to teach them a painful, unforgettable lesson now. The startling rainbow sword turned into a streak of white light. It slashed out like a fan, directly sweeping through their necks without any obstruction at all. Immediately, blood spurted from their necks like fountains. The early overgods had been beheaded. The blood propelled the two heads high up into the sky, and then the heads spun as they fell. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. In just a single stroke, Jianchen had forcefully beheaded the two early overgods in a dominating manner. Not only did the 5 protectors become completely dumbfounded by the sight of this, all the people in the Dong'an province became more shocked than they had ever been before. They all fell into a daze. Do you see that young man in white robes? He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen. Heavens, the patriarch really is just too powerful. He beheaded 2 early overgods without any effort at all. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is actually so powerful, where even early overgods are no different from ants before him. Just what is his strength? Has he already broken through to God King? The patriarch is so powerful that he can probably make it onto the 3,000 overgods plaque. The Dong'an province fell silent for a while before suddenly erupting with an enthusiastic hubbub. Jianchen had beheaded 2 overgods with lightning speed, and all the people in the provincial city had witnessed this. They became extremely excited. Ever since the Tian Yuan clan was founded, they had always dealt with troublemakers and assisted the weak. The people in the clan did not take women forcefully either, so the Tian Yuan clan had earned the favor and support of many people in the provincial city. They were completely different from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. As a result, many people immediately cheered when they saw the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan gain the upper hand against powerful enemies. Chapter 1901. Everyone mobilized Senior Gong, Senior Wu, save us. Save us. The 2 protectors who had been beheaded asked for help in fear. Of course, they were unable to make any sounds now that their heads had been separated from their bodies. They produced mental pulses to ask for help. As long as their souls existed, they would not die even if their bodies were reduced to pieces. As a result, the 2 of them remained alive even after their heads were chopped off. Of course, their current situation was quite horrible because a tiny strand of sword qi had been deposited in them after Jianchen beheaded them. The sword qi split into 2, one remained in their bodies, while the other directly entered their head. However, Jianchen had controlled the power very well. The sword qi in their heads was not powerful at all. They could fend it off with just the power of their souls. The sword qi would not wipe out their souls, and they would not die. It would only waste away a tremendous amount of power from their souls. The 2 late overgods who were known as Senior Gong and Senior Wu arrived before the heads with sunken faces. They each protected one of them, pressing them gently against their necks. At the same time, they took out a bottle of pills from their space rings and ground it to dust before rubbing it on their wounds. Immediately, the injuries on their necks began to heal at a visible rate. The heads reconnected with the bodies very quickly. During that time, the other 3 mid-overgods stared at Jianchen cautiously, so that they would be ready if Jianchen suddenly struck out in an attempt to stop them from helping. However, Jianchen did not plan on killing them. He did not stop them from helping the 2 early overgods. Instead, he retreated with his sword. He stared at them coldly and emotionlessly. It's fortunate that we saved you in time. Your bodies haven't been damaged any further than this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to reconnect your heads. A late overgod said gladly. When he glanced at Jianchen, cold light flashed through his eyes with powerful killing intent. Thank you for saving us, Senior Gong and Senior Wu. If it were not for the fact that you two made it in time, we probably would have died to Jianchen's hands. The two protectors who believed that they had survived out of pure luck said weakly. Their bodies trembled gently while their faces became frighteningly pale. The muscles on their faces twitched unnaturally, as they seemed to be in great pain. Pure strands of sword qi rampaged through their bodies. It destroyed their vitality, crushed their organs, and severed their blood vessels. At the same time, there was a weak strand of sword qi in their heads. If they did not try to fend it off with their full power, it could wipe out their souls at any time. The two of them immediately sat down and devoted themselves to stopping the two strands of sword qi that created trouble in their bodies. You dare attempt to kill the protectors of the Earth Spirit Sect? Jianchen, you're just far too bold. Looks like you country bumpkins from this tiny divine kingdom don't know what kind of existence our Earth Spirit Sect is. A woman said among the 7 protectors. Her crisp voice was filled with coldness while her eyes were frigid. Afterwards, she looked at the two late overgods and said, Senior Gong, Senior Wu, the people from the Tianyuan clan are bold enough to try to kill the protectors of our Earth Spirit Sect. They cannot be spared from their crimes. I think the Tianyuan clan really has no reason to continue existing. The two seniors nodded emotionlessly. Senior Gong said easily, since Junioren feels there's no more reason for the Tianyuan clan to exist, let's destroy them. The Tianyuan clan has suppressed Junior Yen for so long. It's time for them to pay the price. This Jianchen has some skill. It'll probably take me a while to kill him if I fight him all alone. Whatever. Just leave him to Protector Gong and me. The rest of you go deal with the other people from the Tianyuan clan. But you have to remember to not destroy the provincial city. It's Junior Yan's territory, Senior Wu said as well. He looked in the direction of the Wainer clan and smiled faintly. Junior Yan's talent really is great. He's about to break through to mid-overgood soon. Let's move quickly. Once he emerges, we'll give him the head of the patriarch from the Tianyuan clan as a gift. The protectors discussed the matter among themselves. With just that, they were ready to eliminate the Tianyuan clan completely. They did not treat Jianchen with any importance at all. Jianchen's killing intent surged when he heard them talk. He said coldly, I've already shown mercy before by not killing the two of you. If you don't know what's best for you, you can't blame me for not showing any more mercy. The two late overgods laughed. Protector Gong said scornfully, just by yourself? You're just an overgod of a divine kingdom, just a country bumpkin. Yet you dare talk to us like that? Allow me to witness just what skills you have to back up your words. With that, a powerful pulse of energy radiated from Protector Gong like a great wave. At that moment, Protector Gong's presence soared. It was extremely surprising. He formed a seal with 2 hands and fire rose up from him. It gave off a terrifying heat. The laws of fire condensed around him. The flames burnt more and more vigorously. In the blink of an eye, they went from red to gold. Terrifying energy shook up the surroundings, causing the ground to sink. The tall city walls shuddered. Adamant seal of flames. Protector Gong called out. His body seemed to become a sun in the sky, shining with blinding light as he charged towards Jianchen in an unstoppable manner. The terrifying heat made him seem like a furnace of the world, and it was enough for space to distort. He used a powerful battle skill right from the start. He did not hold back at all, wanting to finish the battle fast and show off the greatness of the Earth Spirit Sect. At the same time, Protector Wu struck out as well. He wielded a huge, 2-handed sword that shone with golden light. He also used a powerful battle skill. The laws of metal revolved around the huge sword as he directly slashed out. The strike possessed all the power of laws and energy that had accumulated on the sword. They fused together to form a thin, golden thread. The energy inside had been compressed through a special method with the battle skill, such that the power of the golden thread would even make the expressions of many late overgods change. The two protectors both used powerful battle skills from the Earth Spirit sect. Neither of them was weaker than Yang Kai. Very few late overgods could stand up to them. Daoyuo sword. Jianchen formed a seal with his hands, and a golden sword chi condensed above him. It shot towards Protector Wu with lightning speed. At the same time, he roared out at the sky. His hair danced purely from the energy he gave off, and his battle intent surged. The startling rainbow sword shone brightly as the power of laws revolved around him. He seemed to have fused with his sword, shooting aggressively towards Protector Gong. Jianchen moved extremely quickly, like a comet through the sky. The origin energy that stood in his way had all been blasted to pieces. When they began fighting, of the three remaining protectors, the two mid-overgod women directly charged for the provincial city. Their eyes shone with cold killing intent as they directly made their way towards the Tianyuan clan. The last mid-overgod stood before the two people who just had their heads reconnected to their bodies, protecting them. Chapter 1902. Jianchen's Might. 1. The roles of each of the 5 protectors were extremely clear. The 2 most powerful protectors dealt with Jianchen, while one of the remaining 3 protected the other 2 injured protectors. The final 2 protectors would directly make their way towards the Tianyuan clan, in an attempt to destroy it. The formations of the provincial city had been activated long ago. It formed an energy screen that protected the entire city. Although the Tianyuan clan had spent a great effort in reinforcing the formation of the city, elevating it to the level of overgods, it could only block attacks from early overgods. Under the teamwork of the 2 mid-overgods, it was naturally unable to stop them, and it crumbled without much effort at all. The 2 women from the Earth Spirit sect gave off icy presences with killing intent as they made their way towards the Tianyuan clan aggressively. Boom! A deafening sound rang out beyond the provincial city. Jianchen had already engaged in an intense battle against Protectors Gong and Wu. His golden sword chi collided with Protector Wu's golden thread that had been materialized from his battle skill. The golden thread exploded instantly, while the powerful origin energy and laws of metal expanded as an extremely great storm of energy that wreaked havoc in the surroundings. The terrifying pressure caused the ground to sink. The violent storm of energy struck the city walls as an extremely terrifying wave, immediately causing the great walls to crack. If it were not for the fact that the walls themselves were extraordinary, constructed from extremely tough material, and engraved with countless complicated formations, just the wave of energy alone would have been enough to cause it to collapse. Protector Wu shone with dazzling golden light, as the laws of metal revolved around him. He used it to fend off the incoming energy storm. However, his eyes suddenly narrowed at this moment. A sliver of disbelief appeared on his face. Right before him, a golden strand of sword chi tore through the air, directly cut through the energy storm, and headed directly towards him. How is this possible? The battle skill I used couldn't even stop a strand of sword chi? Protector Wu was extremely shocked. The golden sword chi had already locked on his presence, so he could not avoid it. He could only take it head-on. However, time was tight. It was already too late for him to strike out. All he could do was place his huge sword across his body, while pushing the laws of metal around him to the limit. A set of armor condensed from origin energy appeared on his body. It combined with the laws of metal that wove into his armor. Boom! There was a second sound. After tearing through Protector Wu's battle skill, the golden sword chi struck his huge sword with great force. Protector Wu only sensed the shocking force pass onto him from the golden sword chi. His body shook violently, while his hands became numb. The powerful force had pushed him into a constant retreat. Moreover, an extremely sharp sword intent surged over. It enveloped Protector Wu completely while the power of the laws of the sword faced off against the laws of metal on him. It produced an oppressive sound. The laws of the sword were one of the most offensive laws. It was even greater than the laws of metal that Protector Wu had comprehended. The laws of metal around him dispersed rapidly, forcefully ground away by the laws of the sword. It left behind lashes on his body, almost causing his armor to collapse. After personally witnessing the power of the Daoyuo sword, Protector Wu could not help but gasp. He was filled with shock. How is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan so powerful? Protector Wu's face changed, and he became extremely stern. In an open confrontation, just a single sword chi from the patriarch had almost injured him. He found this difficult to believe. Although the patriarch had beheaded 2 early overgods before him, Protector Wu did not take it to heart because he was confident that he could also do something like that if he caught them by surprise. Everything had happened extremely quickly. The clash between the Daluo sword and Protector Wu had only lasted for a split second. At the same time, Jianchen fused with his sword and collided with Protector Gong's adamant seal of flames that transformed him into a sun as a huge sword chi. A loud explosion rang out. Lu's sword chi filled the air. The startling rainbow sword shone brightly as it tore through the air as a beautiful streak. It directly punched through Protector Gong's sun. The sun shook violently. It flickered, but soon enough, strands of laws of fire condensed from the surroundings, consolidating it again. First transformation, Hand of the Adamant. Protector Gong's voice rang out. The sun that he had transformed into burned vigorously. The temperature in the surroundings suddenly skyrocketed. After he spoke, a huge hand completely condensed from fire reached out from the sun. A layer of golden flames covered it, and it swung towards Jianchen with the might of the world. When the hand fell, a mysterious power appeared. It interwove with the laws and resonated with the world, sealing off the space around Jianchen such that he became isolated. Jianchen shone with dazzling white light. Using it as protection, chaotic force rampaged through his body. A strand of chaotic force curled around his startling rainbow sword as well, transforming its glow. At that moment, his vitality was pushed to his limits. He seemed to fuse with the sword in his hand completely. As he swung it, sword chi shot out like rain. They all shone brightly, forming a chain that landed on Protector Gong's hand. It had to be said that both Protector Gong and Protector Wu were extremely powerful. The battle skills they used were of high grade. The strength they displayed at that moment had completely exceeded Yang Kai's. Very few people would be their opponent with the same level of cultivation. However, Jianchen cultivated the chaotic body. Coupled with the laws of the sword that were known to possess the most offensive power, he was even more powerful than them. With a single slash, the world paled before it. The seal Protector Gong's hand created shattered loudly before the strike, and the sword chi directly slashed through the hand. Protector Gong's sun shook violently. There seemed to be a faint grunt from within there. Clearly, after the hand was cut off, Protector Gong was affected as well. On the other hand, even though Jianchen was protected by his glow that obscured his appearance, the presence he gave off did not weaken at all. Instead, it grew stronger, and he became bolder and bolder as he fought. How is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan so powerful? With the strength he is displaying right now, he can easily make it onto the 3,000 Overgods plaque. How can this tiny land with such poor resources produce such an expert? Protector Gong was secretly surprised. He and Protector Wu did not manage to gain the upper hand at all when they decided to work together against the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. This had surprised him. After cutting off the hand in a single strike, Jianchen did not continue to entangle with the 2 late overgods. He turned into a streak of light and shot towards the 2 women with surging killing intent. At this moment, the defensive formations of the Tian Yuan clan had all been activated. All the elders had already emerged from seclusion, and they had now gathered together sternly. In the Forbidden Grounds, Houston, Sacred Feather, Honglian, Heiyu, and the others from the world of Forsaken Saints had all emerged as well. They stared outside the city sternly. Shangguan Muir had also emerged from seclusion. Her powerful presence as an overgod was being charged up. It was only increasing now so that she was ready to strike out at any time. Where do you think you're going? Stay here, you're our opponent. Protector Wu bellowed out. Origin energy surged on his huge sword as he slashed out several times with the laws of metal. He formed a huge net that wrapped around Jianchen to block his path. Chapter 1903. Jianchen's Might 2. Piss off. Jianchen roared out as a vicious light flickered through his eyes. He opened a path with the startling rainbow sword. His every strike possessed the power of laws, and every single one of them resonated with the world. When it came in contact with Protector Wu's laws of metal, it tore through it all. Protector Wu's huge sword danced quickly. Energy surged, and the laws of the world appeared. The might of a powerful battle skill shook up the surroundings as he used his full strength against Jianchen to keep him busy. Protector Wu fought with great difficulty. His face was extremely stern, and he had already paled. The Protector's uniform from the Earth Spirit sect on his body had already ripped. In such a short amount of time, he had already become covered in slashes and blood. Jianchen formed a seal and used the Daluo sword again. It punched through the golden light around Protector Wu and struck his body. With a heavy thud, Protector Wu was sent flying while vomiting blood. His face was pale, and he was now very injured. The sword chi did not pierce through his body. Instead, his huge sword blocked it. However, he still became heavily injured regardless. How is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan so strong? He's unstoppable. Are there still any overgods who can take him on? No, I can't let him catch up to my juniors, or it'll be too late even if I want to save them. Protector Wu was extremely shocked. He immediately took out some healing pills he had received from the Earth Spirit sect, and consumed them before charging over once again. Jianchen was worried about the Tianyuan clan, so he was not in the mood to continue fighting with Protector Wu. After pushing him back with a single strike, he wanted to hurry off to the Tianyuan clan. However, at this moment, a hand covered in golden flames appeared before Jianchen with the laws of fire, and shot towards him. Protector Gong had silently appeared behind Jianchen. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Frigid light flickered through Jianchen's eyes. He was extremely cold. Jianchen experienced killing intent when the two protectors did everything they could to stop him, so that they could buy time for the two mid-overgods to destroy the Tianyuan clan. The light around Jianchen shone brighter, and chaotic force rampaged within him, filling every inch of his body. He pushed the defenses of his chaotic body to the maximum. He did not even try to dodge Protector Gong's palm strike. Instead, he directly used his back to resist it. Protector Gong's golden hand struck Jianchen's layer of protective light with terrifying heat, destroying it. However, the light managed to waste away quite a lot of the laws of fire that had condensed within the hand. It had lost half of everything just to get through the light. In the end, it struck Jianchen's back with only half its power. Thud. All of the power within Protector Gong's hand exploded on Jianchen's back, blowing him far away. Protector Gong could not help but smile joyously when he saw his attack land. Jianchen had used his body to take on the strike. Even though it had already weakened drastically to get through the light around Jianchen, the remaining power was still extremely great. Any overgod would become heavily injured if they took such a strike regardless of how powerful they were. However, in the next moment, Protector Gong's complacent expression suddenly froze. His eyes widened as he stared at Jianchen in utter disbelief. He became slightly stunned. He discovered that Jianchen's complexion was the same as before after taking on the strike. He was still brimming with energy, and his presence did not weaken at all. It did not seem like he was injured at all. Instead, he flew towards the provincial city with even greater speed, pursuing Protector Gong's two juniors with lightning speed. The palm strike did not even seem like it was for injuring Jianchen. Instead, it seemed like it was used to propel Jianchen towards his two juniors. Why did this happen? My attack clearly landed on him. It's impossible for him to not become injured. Protector Gong watched on in disbelief. He had struck Jianchen after so much difficulty, but he discovered that he failed to injure Jianchen at all. This matter had taken him by surprise. Even in the Earth Spirit sect, his strength made him one of the top existences among all overgods. He was proud, yet he seemed like nothing time and time again after coming to a backwater place like the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The two women from the Earth Spirit sect also discovered that Jianchen was chasing them. Jianchen simply moved too quickly. It was impossible for them to destroy the Tianyuan clan before he arrived, as they were only mid-overgods. Wuxia, go destroy the Tianyuan clan. I'll stop him, one of the women said coldly. She held a fan and swung it forcefully. It produced a cloud of sword chi that shot towards Jianchen. Each strand of sword chi was only the size of a finger, and it fell on Jianchen like rain. They all possessed the power from the laws of the sword. Jianchen stabbed out. The light on the startling rainbow sword surged. The sword chi from the fan collided with the light from the startling rainbow sword, causing it all to disperse. Afterwards, a ray of light shot out from the startling rainbow sword. With a flash of white light in the sky, the light directly punched through the woman's chest. The woman vomited blood. At the same time, blood spurted out from her chest like a fountain, falling like rain, filling the air. It seemed like a storm of blood, dyeing the streets of the city red. Junior Chun. The two late overgods both cried out. They had already rushed over, stopping Jianchen once again. The three of them began fighting above the city. Terrifying shockwaves of energy shook up the surroundings and kicked up storms. Many structures collapsed wherever it managed to hit. The city was in a mess. Everyone fled crazily. They all used everything they had to push their speeds to the limit. These were energy shockwaves from battles between late overgods. Even gods could not endure it, not to mention the fact that many of them had not even attained godhood. Jianchen was entangled with Protector Wu and Protector Gong. He was unable to break free temporarily, so it was difficult for him to heavily injure the final woman. At this moment, sword chi shot into the air. A dark, metal sword surged into the air from one of the streets in the city, directly towards the final protector. Jianchen, just deal with the two of them without worrying. Leave the two women to me. Xinjian's voice rang out. As he spoke, he struck Kaiya's back with a palm strike, sending her flying with a gentle force. At the same time he called out, "Go return to the clan." After sending Kaiya away, Xinjian shot up from the ground. He too flickered with light as he soared into the sky with sword chi. With the dark, metal sword in his hand, he began fighting with the female protector. The woman who had a hole punched through her chest by Jianchen was not dead. She raised her head and looked at Xinjian, who was busy fighting Wuxia. Then she glanced at Kaiya, who had been sent far away by Xinjian. A cold light appeared in her eyes. Where did this overgod come from? He's sticking his nose into other people's business, getting in the way of us destroying the Tianyuan clan. I'll definitely make you pay a heavy price. Since you pushed away that Saint Emperor Ant before you began fighting with Wuxia, she must be quite important to you. Oh right, I think I remember seeing you always guard her before. With a thought the woman sneered, and with a single moment, she charged towards Kaiya with great speed. Chapter 1904. Jianchen's Might 3. Jianchen and Xinjian both noticed the protector who charged straight for Kaiya. However, they were both busy with their opponents and were unable to break free immediately. Even if they could shake off their opponents temporarily, it would have been too late. Kaiya was not far away from the female protector. With the female protector's cultivation at mid-overgod, she only needed a split second to arrive before Kaiya. She swung her fan gently and produced a barrage of rain-like sword chi that flooded towards Kaiya. Kaiya's eyes suddenly narrowed. In this moment of life or death, she did not become flustered at all. Instead, she stared at the barrage of sword chi with interest. She was only a Saint Emperor right now, so she was as puny as an ant before a mid-overgod. It was impossible for her to survive the attacks of a mid-overgod, let alone even see it. However, to her surprise, she could actually see every movement of the female protector clearly. Time seemed to become extremely slow in her eyes. She clearly saw that the trajectories of the sword chi as they approached her like a storm. Unfortunately, although Kaiya could see everything, she was still too weak in the end. She did not even have the ability to dodge the attack. She knew very well just what would happen if she was hit. There would be no hopes of survival, let alone having her soul dispersed. Even her corpse would not remain whole. However, at this moment when she faced death, her heart became extraordinarily calm while her face did not change at all. If Jianchen could see the current Kaiya, he would definitely become filled with suspicion, as she seemed like a completely different person to the Kaiya he once knew. They were still the same person, but her mind and presence seemed to belong to someone else. Arg! In the sky, Jianchen roared out as he fought against the two protectors. Killing intent surged from his body as his presence became extremely astounding. At that moment, His two eyes seemed to become silver white as they radiated with sharp sword chi. He was already ready to use the profound sword chi to directly kill the female protector now that Kaya was in danger. At the same time, Shangguan Muer's expression changed suddenly in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan. She sat in the air. At the same time, her zither had silently appeared. She placed it across her knees and was about to provide support. At that moment, she could no longer follow Jianchen's advice to keep her strength hidden. However, just when Jianchen was about to use his profound sword chi and Shangguan Muer was about to play her zither, an azure light suddenly appeared. It arrived in front of Kaya before Jianchen and Shangguan Muer could make their moves, turning into a huge, azure disc that stood before her. Ding 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 ding. The rain-like sword chi struck the azure disc, and they all dispersed. They transformed into a powerful pulse of energy that wreaked havoc in the city, throwing structures into the air and creating huge cracks in the ground. Chanlong. Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He checked below him with the senses of his soul and saw everything clearly. Immediately he became stunned. He had never thought that Master Chanlong would actually save Kaya at such an important moment. In the forbidden grounds of the clan, Shangguan Muer was stunned as well. She stared in Kaya's direction and put her zither away. Master Chanlong stood leisurely behind the azure disc. He extended his right hand and controlled the disc that was 3 meters wide. No matter how violent it was on the other side, the disc blocked it all out with great ease. Who are you? Do you want to become enemies with the Earth Spirit sect? The female protector became enraged. Her face sank heavily. They had come to destroy the Tianyuan clan for their junior yen. But none of them had ever thought they would be stopped time and time again. It made her furious. Did the divine kingdom of Pingtian want to turn against them? Overgods showed up one after another to stop them in a backwater city like this. With a wave of his sleeve, the azure disc hovered above Master Chanlong. He stared at the woman with the fan. His hands were behind his back, while his face was extremely calm. He said, I don't want to become enemies with the Earth Spirit sect, but this person is my friend. As long as I'm here, you protectors of the Earth Spirit sect won't be able to touch a single hair on her. Master Chanlong was extremely confident. He did not treat the 7 protectors as anything important at all. However, he really did have that strength. He possessed the power to back up his arrogance. If he had enough time to cast down formations, he could even kill God Kings. Daoyuo sword. Tai sword technique. On the other side, Jianchen had already struck out with his full strength. The golden sword chi shot towards Protector Wu's huge sword, tearing through the defenses of his golden light and punching through his chest. Protector Wu grunted, and blood spurted out of his mouth. He was blown away like a cannonball, becoming extremely injured. At the same time, Jianchen fused with his sword. Sword chi gathered around his body as he became the sword himself, shooting towards Protector Wu. Second transformation, Foot of the Adamant. Protector Gong used a battle skill once again. A huge foot condensed below him. With the battle skill's might, it stomped towards Jianchen. The second transformation was even more powerful than the first. As the foot fell, the space underneath it seemed to become compressed. It created several booms while even space rippled and became distorted. Jianchen was fearless. As a sword, he charged straight at it with surging presence. His battle prowess was just shocking. Boom. The foot and the sword collided loudly. Shockwaves of energy filled the sky, causing it to warp and change in color. The foot collapsed loudly, while Jianchen tore through the shockwaves without slowing down at all. He shot towards Protector Gong like a bolt of lightning. Protector Gong backpedaled as he grunted. His face was completely flushed, and blood oozed from the corner of his lips. That was not all, however. Even his eyes, nostrils, and ears dripped with blood. He was bleeding from all his orifices. Even though he was very injured, he did not dare to rest. He had already become extremely stern. The laws of fire rapidly gathered towards his hands such that his flaming red hands gradually became golden like metal. It radiated with terrifying pulses of energy. He swung down with both hands with basically all the origin energy within him to fend off the incoming Jianchen. Jianchen's gaze was cold. With a swirl of sword chi, He directly made his way around the arms. Blood splattered, and both of the protector's arms had been chopped off. Blood filled with air. Protector Gong produced an extremely painful grunt. The muscles on his face distorted while huge beads of sweat covered his forehead. His face was extremely pale. A powerful sword chi surrounded the arms that had been chopped off. The sword chi was like flesh-eating insects, rapidly destroying his arms. In just a short moment, both of the arms had been reduced to a meaty pulp, severing the hope of reattaching his arms as the easiest way to regain use of them. Chapter 1905. End of the Crisis. Jian Chun. Protector Gong roared out furiously. His eyes had become completely bloodshot. He would need quite a long time to recover his arms now that Jian Chun had completely destroyed them. It would even end up damaging his vitality. Moreover, even though he was a late overgod, Protector Gong was incapacitated now that he had lost both of his arms. The laws of fire that had condensed around him had already dispersed, while he, who had transformed into a sun due to the laws, reappeared. His body was covered with vicious and terrifying slashes. He was bloodied and in a horrible condition while his face was sheet white, giving off a sense of weakness. Today, both Protector Gong and Protector Wu had become heavily injured and reduced to a horrible shape. They were not like Jian Chun, who possessed the tough chaotic body. As a result, their battle prowess had been greatly reduced after being injured. They were nowhere near close to their peak condition. However, Jian Chun did not plan to let them off just yet. He swung the startling rainbow sword and produced two huge chains created from sword chi. He attacked the two protectors again, forcing them to vomit blood. At the same time, their wounds worsened. They were completely incapacitated now. Senior Gong and Senior Wu have actually been defeated. They actually can't beat the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, even when working together. They even failed to injure him. How is this possible? It's impossible. In the distance, the two early overgods and the only other protector who did not take part in the battle struggled to accept this outcome. They were in disbelief. In their eyes, even among all the overgods of the Earth Spirit sect, Protector Gong and Protector Wu ranked towards the very top. They were extremely close to God King, and they only required a final step. However, what happened before them today had completely overturned their understandings. Working together, the powerful protectors had actually lost to an overgod from a backwater city. In the provincial city, Shen Jian wielded his dark sword as sword chi surged from him. His intense battle with Feng Xia had already risen from the original altitude of a few hundred meters to 10,000 meters. Even though Feng Xia was a mid-overgod, making her cultivation greater than Shen Jian, who was only an early overgod, Shen Jian suppressed her firmly when they actually clashed. Who is this person? How is he so powerful? Is he the prodigy of some great sect? Feng Xia was extremely shocked inside. Pitted against Shen Jian's lightning-swift attacks, she had already used her full strength, without holding back anything at all. However, even with that being the case, she only just managed to keep him at bay. She was reduced to just dealing with whatever he threw at her, completely losing the upper hand. Below, the woman with the fan wanted to kill Kaya, but she was entangled with Chanlong. She was extremely annoyed and had attacked Chanlong without any hesitation at all. However, Master Chanlong was a famed formations master. He possessed extremely great mastery over the laws of formations, so just a single defensive formation from him could nullify all the attacks from the woman with ease. Master Chanlong and Kaya stood within the formation. Master Chanlong had his hands behind his back as he stared at the woman outside leisurely. He allowed her to attack the formation exhaustively with a pale face and did not fight back at all. With my support, even if you attack this formation for 10,000 years straight, you won't be able to get through it. I only want to protect my friend. I don't want to become enemies with your Earth Spirit sect, so you better stop it now, Master Chanlong said plainly. The woman's eyes turned cold when she heard that. She said frigidly, "There's nothing I can do about your formation, but you should know that our Earth Spirit sect is filled with talents and experts. Let alone overgods, but we even have quite a few God Kings as well. If you continue to get in our way, our Earth Spirit sect will not spare you." Master Chanlong ignored the woman's threats. He said indifferently, "Although I don't want to become enemies with your Earth Spirit sect, that doesn't mean I fear your Earth Spirit sect. If you want to keep going, I can only cast down a formation and keep you trapped." Youth, the woman's chest heaved with anger. She was a mighty protector of the Earth Spirit sect. In a backwater kingdom like this, she would receive only respect wherever she went. She had never become so furious before. However, when she saw how fearless Master Chanlong was, she understood that this old man was not joking with her. She immediately glanced at him with resentment before turning around and flying towards the Tianyuan clan. "Tianyuan clan, it's all because of you. If I swear I will destroy you today." Killing intent filled the woman's eyes. Even though she had taken a strike from Jianchen and was injured, she was a mid-overgod after all. Wiping out a clan without an overgod would require no effort at all. However, at this moment, a streak of light shot over the horizon, arriving with lightning speed. It moved extremely quickly, piercing through her chest before she could even react. Spurt. Blood sprayed into the air, and the woman grunted. The startling rainbow sword had pierced her entire body. Jianchen gripped the sword with a single hand as he stared coldly at the woman with killing intent. As he pushed out with his right hand, the sword flew off with the woman, directly stabbing into the damaged city walls in the end. It pinned her there firmly. Seeing how Jianchen had already dealt with his opponents, Shen Jian went serious. He used his full strength and the Cloudstream sword suddenly shook. A visible ripple spread out from it. This ripple contained a devastating power. Once the ripple hit Feng Xia, her clothes were immediately reduced to tatters, revealing her slender figure. However, her body was already covered in blood, and even her bones were shaken to dust by the ripple. Now the battle had finally ended. 6 of the 7 protectors had been heavily injured, only leaving behind a single mid-overgod who did not take part in the battle. He was already utterly stunned and pale by now, and he no longer possessed the courage to keep on fighting. How did this happen? How? The 2 protectors that Jianchen had beheaded opened their eyes as well. They stared at the injured Protector Gong and Protector Wu as well as the woman who struggled painfully as she was pinned to the wall. They became so frightened that they trembled. They, the 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect, had actually all been defeated by an overgod clan from a backwater place like the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They took it very hard. At this moment, a tremendous presence suddenly soared into the sky from the Weiner clan within the city. It enveloped the entire provincial city. Weiner Yen had finally emerged from seclusion after all these years of cultivation. He had also successfully broken through to mid-overgod. However, just when Weiner Yan's presence appeared, it froze all of a sudden. The black-robed Weiner Yen charged out of the clan in a hurry. He hovered in the sky as he observed everything in shock. Disbelief filled his face. Clearly, he had completely stopped paying attention to the outside world when he broke through. He had no idea what had happened in the provincial city. Senior Gong, Senior Wu, Senior Feng, Senior Chen, why, you all. Weiner Yan cried out as he struggled to believe what he was seeing. Weiner Yan's eyes had become completely bloodshot when he saw the woman who had been pinned against the city walls by Jianchen's startling rainbow sword. He became utterly enraged. Jianchen, so it's you. You injured my seniors. Weiner Yan's eyes locked onto Jianchen very soon, and he roared out furiously. His presence surged, and the laws of strength wove into his body as he charged towards Jianchen aggressively. Jianchen frowned. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, the laws around him formed a sword. It exploded with sword intent and took off as a streak of light, shooting towards Weiner Yan. Weiner Yan had just become a mid-overgod. Compared to before, his strength had increased drastically. He struck out as hard as he could, dealing his strongest strike, but it was not enough to stop the sword chi that Jianchen had sent out casually. Boom. Blood spurted from Weiner Yan's mouth as he was blown back. The laws of strength dispersed into the surroundings. His breakthrough had failed to close the gap between him and Jianchen. Instead, the gap had grown even wider. No, how did this happen? Impossible. This is impossible. Weiner Yan murmured in low spirits as he half knelt on the ground while blood oozed from the corner of his lips. He was confident that he could put up a fight against Jianchen after breaking through. He was even confident that he could defeat Jianqin, suppress the Tianyuan clan, and rule over the Dong'an province. However, in a single clash, he discovered that Jianqin had become even more powerful to the point where he struggled to believe it. This had affected him greatly. Chapter 1906. The Grand Imperial Protector's Plea for Mercy. Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan. Two worried cries rang out. The only two gods of the Weiner clan flew out as quickly as they could. They had personally witnessed Weiner Yin being defeated by Jianqin in a single strike, so they felt extremely worried inside. They could no longer care about how dangerous it was, and they directly shot out of the clan to Weiner Yan's side. Xiaoyan, are you alright? Xiaoyan, you must stay calm. Don't rush into things. In the future, we won't become enemies with the Tianyuan clan. We don't want the provincial city of the Dong'an province anymore either. The two gods of the Weiner clan said with concern, but when they reached the end of these words, they seemed to lose all their fighting spirit. They seemed to have become much older. During these past few years, Weiner Yin had always been in secluded cultivation. He did not pay attention to the outside world, but the two gods understood everything that had happened extremely well. Jianqin had first challenged the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai, and defeated him. He defeated the person who was known as the strongest expert below God King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Afterwards, the three overgods from the Empyrean demon cult attacked the Ling family in the sword-seeking province and sealed off the entire place. All the overgods in the divine kingdom did not dare to speak out against them. Even the royal family chose to remain silent. However, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan stood forward righteously and selflessly, killing his way through the sword-seeking province by himself, and claiming the lives of the three overgods. The matter made him famous. He was an overgod who did not fear even the Empyrean demon cult. With his powerful strength and willingness to kill, the very souls of the two gods had already been affected. They were confident that if the Weiner clan continued to stand against the Tianyuan clan, it would only lead to their own destruction in the end. Of course, what they worried the most about was Weiner Yin. They were now an overgod clan, but without Weiner Yan's support, they would be nothing. They would not even be one of the more powerful clans among god clans. No, I refuse. I refuse to accept this, Weiner Yin choked out. His strength had broken through once again, let alone the southern region, but he would even be considered a talent with the entire cloud plane in perspective for reaching mid-overgod at such a young age. He should have been awe-inspiring and glorious, but after suffering a setback like this, he took it very hard. Shen Jian arrived before Jianqin with his sword on his back. He glanced at the injured protectors who laid on the ground, and he frowned. We can't kill these people. Killing them will cause great trouble. Jianqin nodded slightly. He also understood that. As a result, he only heavily injured the protectors when he fought them, and did not kill a single one of them. The Earth Spirit sect was different from the Empyrean demon cult. The Empyrean demon cult was a demonic cult. Although they were far more powerful than the Earth Spirit sect, their reputation was horrible. They were a cult that all the major organizations on the plane disliked. Once the cult did something overboard or went too far, the large organizations would not just sit by and watch. They would definitely stand forward to stop them. However, the Earth Spirit sect was honest and righteous. If he killed the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect even when they had provoked him first, the Earth Spirit sect would have all the right in the world to deal with the Tianyuan clan. Even the Divine King would not stop them. Because of them, half of the provincial city has been destroyed and the other half is heavily damaged. It is nothing like how it was before. Even if they're protectors of the Earth Spirit sect, they have to pay for what they've done, Jianqin said emotionlessly. Silently, a strand of golden thread appeared near his wrist. The golden thread was the primordial god silk that had snapped in half when it fended off the crisis of the world on the Tianyuan continent. The primordial god silk was an extremely rare treasure of the world. Even in the saints' world and the immortals' world, it was one of the best materials out there. Unfortunately, the silk had snapped, and Jianqin's strength was nowhere near enough to reconnect the two parts, let alone forge it into an artifact. As a result, the primordial god silk was basically useless to him. Suddenly, The primordial god silk elongated from Jian Chen's wrist. One end remained wrapped around Jian Chen's arm, while the other end shot towards the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect like a snake, wrapping around them. The injured protectors were unable to put up a struggle at all. The primordial god silk tied them up firmly, completely immobilizing them. In particular, the woman who had been pinned to the wall was pulled away in an extremely brutal manner after she was tied up. The sword hilt passed through her body, creating a fist-sized hole. "I will never spare you for treating me like this," the woman screamed out. She was extremely furious. The only protector who did not take part in the battle could sense the horrible situation. He immediately took out a teleportation formation disc in an attempt to flee. A gleam of light flashed through Jian Chen's eyes when he sensed this person's intentions. The startling rainbow sword that had been stabbed into the city wall immediately flew over, stabbing into the formation disc with lightning speed, and destroying it then and there. In the next moment, the primordial god silk reached over and tied him up as well. All 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had been tied up now. "Jian Chen, release my seniors." Weiner Yen paled at the sight of this as he said through gritted teeth. Jian Chen ignored his furious demands. However, at this moment, Jian Chen's expression changed. Suddenly, he raised his head towards the sky. In the sky, the space rippled slightly. In the next moment, the Grand Imperial Protector of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian appeared silently. "Jian Chen, please let them go." The Grand Imperial Protector concealed his presence as he said to Jian Chen in an approachable manner. The emotions in his eyes were slightly mixed. "Let them go." Jian Chen's face sank when he heard that. He responded, "Imperial Protector, why don't you have a look at the city? They come wreaking havoc in my Dong'an province by abusing their statuses as protectors of the Earth Spirit sect. It was a perfectly good city, but now it has been reduced to a mess. Countless people have been injured, and they even said they wanted to destroy my Tianyuan clan. Is my Tianyuan clan really that easy to abuse?" The Grand Imperial Protector sighed. "Jian Chen, you must also understand that the 7 of them aren't like the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult. They can't just be killed like that. Moreover, our divine kingdom of Pingtian currently faces the threat of the Empyrean demon cult. At such a crucial time, we must focus on the big picture. We can't turn on ourselves at a time like this. Dealing with the Empyrean demon cult is our main objective. The 7 protectors have come to assist us in fending off the Empyrean demon cult." The Grand Imperial Protector tossed a space ring at Jian Chen and said, "There are some divine crystals in there, as well as quite a few healing pills. Just treat it as making up for the losses of the Dong'an province. Jian Chen, just treat it as doing it for me. Let them go." Chapter 1907. Quietening down, Jian Chen caught the space ring that the Grand Imperial Protector had thrown at him, and checked its contents with the senses of his soul. There were only 2 types of things in the space ring: divine crystals and pills. However, there were mountainous piles of both divine crystals and pills. There were many of them, and they were stacked neatly together. Even Jian Chen became amazed at the quantity of the mountainous pile of divine crystals. There are probably 100 billion divine crystals here, or even more than that. Jian Chen marveled secretly. Even though he was used to seeing a lot of divine crystals, he was still amazed when he saw such a tremendous sum. The only pity was that all the divine crystals were low grade. As a result, once converted, they were only 1 billion mid-grade divine crystals, or 10 million high-grade divine crystals. 1 million mid-grade divine crystals were equivalent to a block, so 10 million high-grade divine crystals were equivalent to 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal. This was equivalent to the wealth of most overgod clans. The healing pills were just like the divine crystals. They were not of a particularly high grade, but they possessed quite the evident healing effects. The divine crystals were used to make up for the loss of the provincial city, so that he could rebuild it, while the pills were clearly for the people who had been injured by the battle. Jian Chen understood that the Grand Imperial Protector had come with these items on purpose. He had prepared them beforehand. After all, it was quite difficult to gather such a great number of resources in a short period of time. Jianchen fell silent for a while with the space ring in hand before saying, "Since the Imperial Protector himself has come asking for mercy, I'll let this matter be for now. Their lives are spared, but they cannot avoid punishment. Even if they're protectors of the Earth Spirit sect, they need to pay a price for destroying my provincial city." With that, Jianchen extended his hand and shot out 6 strands of sword qi towards the foreheads of 6 of the people around instantly. Each strand of sword qi was the size of a needle. Trapped, the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect were unable to dodge Jianchen's attack at all, let alone resist. The sword qi pierced their skin easily. It made its way through their foreheads and headed straight for their brains, injuring their souls. The 6 heavily injured protectors could not help but cry out painfully. They were all haggard and extremely weak. Jianchen had controlled the power of the sword qi perfectly. It would injure but not kill, wounding their souls. It would be extremely difficult for them to recover from this, unless they had special heavenly resources or pills. However, both of those items were priceless. "You've actually injured our souls. Once our master arrives, he'll never spare you." The woman with the fan stared at Jianchen with resentment as she ground her teeth. The other protectors also look at Jianchen with fury. Their gazes made them seem like they just wanted to eat Jianchen alive. The only protector who did not take part in the battle had become utterly frightened. He did not dare to utter a single word. Perhaps because he did not take part, but Jianchen did not target him specifically. Jianchen did not injure his soul. Afterwards, Jianchen released the restraints he had placed on them with the primordial god silk, allowing them to regain their mobility. The Grand Imperial Protector glanced at the black-clothed Xinjian deeply, as well as Master Chanlong who stood before Kaya in the provincial city. Afterwards he left with the 7 protectors. Naturally, Wayner did not stay. He left with the Grand Imperial Protector. He had stood up for his seniors and ended up heavily injured. He had to go tend to them, regardless of the reason. After seeing how the Earth Spirit sect had created such a great mess, the 2 gods of the Wayner clan did not remain in the city either. They followed Wayner to the royal capital. The Dong'an province quietened down once again. However, the shock waves of energy from the battle lingered in the sky. The fierce wind whistled loudly. Jianchen turned around to look at the damaged city walls. He could not help but sigh as he revealed a sliver of helplessness. At this moment, Emo Ling, Ando Fu, Nanyun Tong, and the other elders flew out from the city. They gathered before Jianchen and stared at him in admiration and reverence. Houston, Sacred Feather, Xiaojin, Xiaoling, Ruijin, Heiyu Honglian, and so on all emerged from the forbidden grounds. They also gathered before him. However, Shangguan Mu'er did not appear. "Brother, are we just going to let them go like this?" Sacred Feather asked. He was extremely reluctant as a powerful battle intent radiated from him clearly. "Stop, they're so bad. They've destroyed our home." Like a pitiful girl, Xiaoling choked back her tears as her face was filled with sadness. The other people all expressed their sympathy regarding the matter sincerely. "Our business with the Earth Spirit sect isn't over. Let's all go back first," Jianchen said to everyone. He knew extremely well that the greater the sect, the more prideful they would be. Now that the 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had actually suffered defeat at the hands of an overgod clan in a backwater kingdom like the divine kingdom of Pingtian, they would never just let the matter stand. Today was only a start. Jianchen directly went to find Kaya in the provincial city. His feelings became extremely mixed when he saw Master Chanlong standing before her. He knew that if it were not for Master Chanlong's protection today, Kaya definitely would have been done for. Master Chanlong had saved her life today. "Chanlong, no matter what, I must thank you for what you did today," Jianchen said to Chanlong. Master Chanlong was indifferent towards Jianchen's expression of gratitude. He said calmly, "It had nothing to do with you. I was only protecting my friend." Afterwards, Master Chanlong looked at Kaya, and his voice became much gentler. He said, "Kaya, the 3 armies of the Empyrean demon cult are about to attack the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Staying here isn't safe anymore. Why don't you leave with me? Chanlong, you may have saved Kaya, but don't even think about taking her away. Otherwise, I can only get you to stay as well." Before Kaya could respond, Jianchen cut into the conversation. He spoke forcefully, leaving no room for negotiation. He would never allow Kaya to leave with someone she had only met recently. Moreover, he always felt that Master Chanlong might have ulterior motives for befriending Kaya, who was only a saint emperor, while he was a mighty late overgod. Let alone the difference in strength, but they had even only known each other for so long. Moreover, Kaya possessed a 7-colored heaven-devouring beast that had followed her out of its own free will. He even suspected whether Master Chanlong had recognized what it was, which was why he was interacting with Kaya actively. Jianchen, I must admit that your strength is greater than the past, but keeping me here is impossible if I want to leave. Master Chanlong responded forcefully without any fear. Chanlong, Jianchen, stop arguing. Kaya hurried to stand between them after sensing the atmosphere between them was becoming more and more intense. She was afraid the two of them would begin fighting. Chanlong, thank you for saving me. However, Jianchen is the most important friend in my life right now. I won't leave him, Kaya said seriously. Master Chanlong stared at Kaya with interest. After a while, he finally sighed gently. Fair enough. Since you choose to stay behind, I won't force you to leave with me. Master Chanlong no longer said any more after that. He turned around and made his way out of the city, leaving the Dong'an province. Jianchen just watched him leave and did not stop him. Regardless of what he had done in the past, Chanlong had saved Kaya's life. He could not continue attacking him anymore. It really is strange though. I clearly haven't seen you before, but why do I feel a sense of familiarity? Kaya still felt extremely puzzled as she looked at Master Chanlong's back. She returned with Jianchen to the Tianyuan clan with a slight bit of confusion. Chapter 1908. Elders of the Earth Spirit Sect in the Tianyuan clan. Jianchen called for a meeting with all the elders in the clan. He passed down orders for rebuilding the city, and to provide relief before passing the space ring he had received from the Grand Imperial Protector to Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and Nanyun Tong so that they could handle the reconstruction. All the losses suffered by the stores this time would be repaid, using the divine crystals from the Grand Imperial Protector. Also, even the injured people received healing pills. All of them were covered and different numbers of pills were given out depending on the injury suffered. In short, the items that the Grand Imperial Protector had given to Jianchen had all been handed down. There was nothing left of it, and the Tianyuan clan had to take out quite a lot of divine crystals and pills themselves. The Tianyuan clan had displayed meticulous concern for the citizens of the city as they handled the matter, so they immediately received much praise from the people. Everyone in the city felt respect and admiration for the Tianyuan clan from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time, the news of the battle between the Tianyuan clan and the protectors of the Earth Spirit Sect, one of the two great sects of the Heavenly Moon Empire, had spread like wildfire. It led to quite a few discussions in many neighboring divine kingdoms, and even reached the Heavenly Moon Empire before spreading even further than that. Many people found the news to be just too shocking. Not only had an overgod clan from a divine kingdom repelled the attacks from 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit Sect, but they had even achieved a glorious result and a fantastic victory. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, was particularly impressive. He took on 2 late overgods from the Earth Spirit Sect all by himself. Not only did he gain the upper hand, but he even achieved victory in an overwhelming manner. He had defeated his opponents without suffering any injuries at all. Many people believed that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan already possessed the strength to make it onto the 3000 Overgods plaque. As a result, Jianchen gradually gained influence in the surrounding region. The Overgods plaque recorded the 3000 strongest Overgods in the entire Saints world. It went across the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets. Once someone made it onto the plaque, they would directly soar to stardom. Many large organizations and sects would want to rope them in. Even a few extremely ancient organizations would be interested in recruiting them. Without any exaggeration, making it onto the Overgods plaque would allow people to gain influence across the entire Saints world. Their name would appear on all the plaques on the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets. Everyone would know about them. Now that Jianchen was rumored to possess the strength to make it onto the Overgod's plaque, he naturally attracted quite a lot of attention and discussion. Even a few large organizations had already taken note of him. However, in regards to the disturbance he had caused, Jianchen had no idea about it. He had locked himself up in a gloomy room underground as he held a fist-sized monster core. He constantly absorbed the energy inside. This was one of the few Overgod monster cores he had obtained from the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. Furthermore, he possessed a few cores from plants he had killed there, and they were also at the level of Overgods. Jianchen expected the future to no longer be as peaceful as before after he heavily injured the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect. Now that he had enough resources on him, he would naturally use the spare time he had to increase his own strength, so that his chaotic body could break through as soon as possible. While Jianchen was in seclusion, the reconstruction of the city progressed extremely smoothly. Many Origin Realm cultivators personally took part, and even a few deities helped out as well. They used their special techniques, so the city was repaired extremely quickly. In just 3 short days, 70% of the city had been repaired. At the same time, the royal palace welcomed 3 special guests. They were personally received by the Grand Imperial Protector, who smiled from ear to ear as he invited them in, settling them down in the well-decorated palace. Esteemed guests, I'll trouble you for now by having you stay in the Evergreen Palace. If there is any part that inconveniences you, you must bring it forward. The Grand Imperial Protector clasped his fist at the 3 of them. He smiled and spoke extremely politely. Thank you, Imperial Protector. The 3 people also clasped their fists back at the Imperial Protector. They behaved in an approachable manner, and they did not put up a haughty air at all. After leading the people to their residences, the Grand Imperial Protector left, while the 3 people entered the well-decorated palace. They saw the 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect standing there politely as soon as they entered the palace. 6 of them were still injured. Moreover, due to their souls, they were all pale and haggard. They gave off a sense of weakness. Apart from the 7 of them, Weiner Yen was also present. He stood with the 7 people. Disciple greets Master, Elder Ma, and Elder Fong. The 7 protectors and Weiner Yen all bowed. They were extremely polite, but there was also a sense of uneasiness within all that. Seeing them, the 3 elders from the Earth Spirit sect stopped being as amiable as when they faced the Grand Imperial Protector. Their faces sank rapidly, and they seemed furious. At the same time, they seemed to give off extremely tremendous presences. The 8 overgods before them all became frightened. Humph, you're all useless, the middle-aged man to the left said coldly. He stared at them with a sunken face and said in exasperation as if it was directed at their failure. There is a total of 8 of you. 8 overgods, each possessing the powerful battle skills from the sect. That is probably enough for you to even stand up to all the overgods in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Yet you were defeated by a mere overgod clan. Our Earth Spirit sect has been completely humiliated by you. Even the sect master has learnt of this. He's furious. Tell me, how should I explain this to him? Do I tell him that I'm useless? Or do I tell him you're useless? Or do I tell him your opponent was just too powerful? The faces of the protectors reddened with shame under the scoldings of the middle-aged man. They were just too ashamed, and they stood there in a daze without talking back at all. They knew themselves that not only had their failure humiliated themselves, but they had also humiliated the entire Earth Spirit sect as well as their master. Elder Mu, it has already happened. There's no use getting so angry. Moreover, your disciples are still wounded. You better have them recover first. Elder Ma, who stood in the center, spoke out for the disciples. The 3 elders were all middle-aged men, but Elder Ma seemed to be the leader among them. Tell me, is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan really that skilled? That he can injure you like this? Elder Fong said as well. He spoke extremely gently, as gentle as the spring breeze. Elder Fong, Jianchen is indeed very strong. Although Protector Gong and I clashed with him several times, we completely failed to injure him at all. He basically completely overwhelmed our teamwork, and I feel like he didn't even use his full strength. Protector Wu said whilst bowing. Senior Wu is right. Jianchen is indeed very strong. I couldn't even take on a single attack from him as a mid-over god. Moreover, Junior Yin could not even take on a single strike from him. Even though he had just broken through to mid-over god and comprehended the laws of strength. This time, the woman with the fan spoke. After that, she looked at Elder Mu as if she wanted him to help them. She said pitifully, "Master, Jianchen is completely loathsome. He pinned me to the city walls with his sword. You have to stand up for us. Please destroy Jianchen and the Tianyuan clan master. Although he's very powerful, he's only an ant before Master. Master would be able to crush him without any effort at all. Please, Master. Please avenge us and redeem the Earth Spirit sect," the other female protector asked as well. She understood very well that she was not Jianchen's opponent at all with her strength. She could only ask their master to help them now. Elder Mu snorted coldly with a sunken face. "And you still don't think you haven't embarrassed yourselves enough? You can't beat them yourself, so you want me, a mighty god king, to deal with an over-god. There'll be people criticizing us probably as soon as I wipe out the Tianyuan clan. Do you think that can redeem our Earth Spirit sect? Idiots." Elder Mu's chest heaved heavily from anger. He had even begun to regret taking them in as his disciples. A while later, after Elder Mu slowly calmed down, a vicious light suddenly flickered in his eyes. He said coldly, "However, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan defeated you after all. And he made a joke out of our Earth Spirit sect, while he himself is benefiting from all of this. Since he's bold enough to trample over the Earth Spirit sect to elevate his personal fame, we have to make him pay a price. We just need to use a different method. The current divine kingdom of Pingtian is no longer the same as the past." Elder Fong nodded in agreement. He crossed his arms and said leisurely, "That's right. With our statuses, it's inconvenient for us to directly make our way to the Tianyuan clan. There'll be people making fun of us if we wipe out the Tianyuan clan like that. And the divine kingdom of Pingtian won't allow something like that to happen. We should use a method that does not involve becoming a laughingstock to wipe out the Tianyuan clan. After all, we're a famed sect in the southern region. How can we just let a nobody take advantage of us to propel his own renown?" Chapter 1909. Gathering of experts. Time passed silently, and the news of the arrival of the three god kings from the Earth Spirit sect naturally was unable to stay hidden. The divine kingdom of Pingtian actively spread the news, so that they could rid the unease from their countless citizens about the Empyrean demon cult's invasion. However, the arrival of the three god kings also led to a fervent discussion. Many people discussed whether the three god kings would personally stand forward to demand an explanation from Jianchen, who had injured their protectors. The entire divine kingdom discussed this matter. Everyone in the Tianyuan clan became heavy-hearted when they received this news. They immediately entered a high state of caution. However, the three god kings rarely appeared in the public after they entered the royal palace. At the same time, they did not behave as everyone had expected. They did not personally pay a visit to the Tianyuan clan. Everyone in the Tianyuan clan naturally let out a sigh of relief in response, as they secretly rejoiced. As time went on, more and more large organizations sent reinforcements. They all gathered in the royal capital. From the Heavenly Moon Empire that was the closest to the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the other sect that was just as well known as the Earth Spirit sect, the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds, had also sent three god kings. The imperial family of the Heavenly Moon Empire had also sent reinforcements. They sent two subjects that had arrived in luxurious carriages. They shot through the streets of the royal capital as a blur. The royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian was now a gathering place of experts. Many large organizations in the southern region had sent reinforcements. Some of the citizens who stayed within the royal capital could clearly feel the suffocating pressure from the royal palace. It was daunting. Several days later, groups of special messengers left the royal palace with lightning speed. They hurried to the 6 great provincial cities to pass on the divine king's orders as quickly as possible and summon all the overgods. Naturally, the Tianyuan clan received orders from a group of special messengers as well, but they all became stuck in a dilemma. They all frowned. The patriarch is still in seclusion. What do we do? Do we disturb him? Mo Ling, Ando Fu, Nanyan Tong, and the elders all had no idea what to do. This was because before he entered seclusion, Jianchen had specially ordered them to not disturb him unless the clan faced a situation of life or death. How can the summons of the Divine King be more important than my brother's cultivation? His period of seclusion this time is extremely important. Don't disturb him. Sacred Feather emerged from the forbidden grounds at this moment and said coldly. He possessed a natural sense of pride, so he completely treated the summons of the Divine King as nothing. But the Divine King has ordered the Patriarch to hurry to the royal palace within 3 days. If he doesn't go, Mo Ling and Ando Fu were troubled. If my brother doesn't come out of seclusion in 3 days, send a person to inform the Divine King. Tell him that my brother is in a crucial moment of cultivation, so he can't go, Sacred Feather said firmly. This, Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. At this moment, Jianchen sat in a secret room underground. He clenched a fist-sized plant core as he absorbed its energy and essence. This was already the 3rd core he had absorbed. The 2 before had provided him with extremely powerful and pure energy. His chaotic Niden had already reached the limits of the 10th layer now. He was close to breaking through. If my estimates are correct, as long as I absorb the core in my hand, my chaotic Niden will surpass its limits and explode. It'll be the time to condense the chaotic Niden for the 11th layer when that happens. Once my chaotic body reaches the 11th layer, I would have the battle prowess of a God King. Although it's nowhere near the level where I don't have to worry at all when I face off against the Empyrean demon cult, I'll be able to protect myself better at the very least. Jianchen thought. He was slightly eager. However, in the next moment he discarded his thoughts and completely devoted himself to cultivation. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and Jianchen still had not emerged. Without any other options, the Tian Yuan clan could only contact the people that they had already sent to the royal capital. At this moment, all the experts that originated from the various organizations of the ancient empires had gathered in a grand hall. There were several hundred of them, and all of them were overgods at the very least. Just the god kings among them amounted to over 20. With so many god kings gathered together, the presence they gave off was heavy and terrifying. The air in the hall basically felt frozen. Only overgods possessed the strength to remain there under such pressure. Gods would not even be able to approach the place. And this was with their presences concealed. Otherwise, if the terrifying presences of over 20 god kings merged together, the pressure would be so great that even many overgods would not be able to endure it. The god kings from the Heavenly Moon Empire only amounted to 8. The others came from 3 other ancient empires. 4 of the 6 ancient empires in the southern region had sent reinforcements. However, as the Heavenly Moon Empire was the closest to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, the Heavenly Moon Empire would be the most threatened out of the 6 ancient empires once the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian fell. As a result, the Heavenly Moon Empire had sent the most amount of people. Above them was the Divine King, Pingtian. He wore his dragon robes as he sat on his dragon throne. He glanced at the experts below, and thanked them all for coming with a calm smile. None of the god kings below put on any airs. They all smiled and exchanged pleasantries with the Divine King extremely politely. They seemed to be fawning over him. I heard there's an impressive overgod from the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. He easily defeated 2 late overgods from the Earth Spirit sect while they were working together. For the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian to possess a talent like that, it's difficult for you to not try to prosper. At this moment, a middle-aged man seated below spoke. He glanced at the 3 elders of the Earth Spirit sect with a smile that hid deep meaning. The middle-aged man had also come from the Heavenly Moon Empire. He was an elder of the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds, and his name was Song Ge. It's said that the 2 late overgods were 2 that were specially nurtured by the Earth Spirit sect. Not only did they possess powerful battle skills and impressive cultivation methods, but they were even a step away from God King as well. It's just a pity that these 2 overgods couldn't even injure him. I wonder who their master is, who is actually so useless that they can produce such lackluster disciples. A young man immediately followed up after Song Ge. He looked in the direction of the Earth Spirit sect in provocation. The young man was also an elder of the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds. His name was Chan Bufan. Ha ha ha, looks like the disciples of the Earth Spirit sect of this generation really don't possess much talent at all. Or it's like what Elder Chang has said. Their master is just useless. The third elder from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds also added, and he too stared at the three elders of the Earth Spirit sect in provocation. The faces of the three elders became extremely sunken. Although they were like the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds, one of the two great sects of the Heavenly Moon Empire, their relationship was nowhere close to amicable. They had always been secretly fighting with each other, trying to get the better of the other. Now that an opportunity had presented itself to the people from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds, they naturally had to mock the Earth Spirit sect properly. Chapter 1910. Jianchen absent. It's said that Jianchen possesses the strength to make it onto the 3,000 overgods plaque. Out of the countless overgods across the saints' world, there are only 3,000 of them. Every single one of them is extremely powerful among people of their own cultivation. They're all prodigies raised by those peak organizations. Although our Earth Spirit sect possesses some strength, that's only limited to the southern region of the Cloud Plain. How can we be compared to those supreme prodigies nurtured by peak organizations? Elder Mu from the Earth Spirit sect stood up and said sternly. As the master of the protectors, he needed to step up and say something in response to the scoffings from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds, so that he could protect the pride of the Earth Spirit sect, and his own to his greatest ability. Afterwards, Elder Mu stared at the three elders coldly and said with a sunken face, "If you feel my disciples are useless, you are most welcome to have the disciple you are the proudest of to spar with Jianchen. Let's see whether your great disciples are Jianchen's opponent or not. If your people can win, I'll admit my disciples are useless." That's right. You people from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds can't just talk like that if you don't have what it takes to back it up. You better get your own disciples to fight the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan first. It's not like it'll be too late for you to scoff at our Earth Spirit sect once you achieve victory. Haha, I just fear that the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds will lack that bravery, because they know as well that even if they scour their entire sect, they won't be able to find an overgod that can defeat the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Of course, that's unless you use many overgods to cast down a killing formation. Only then will there be a chance at victory, but our Earth Spirit sect can do something like that easily as well. The other two elders did not tarry. They both spoke out as well. With so many god kings gathered here today, they needed to stand up for the Earth Spirit sect. As a result, even though they were very reluctant, they had to describe Jianchen's strength as worthy of making it onto the overgod's plaque. If the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had been defeated by an expert from the overgod's plaque, it would not be embarrassing in the slightest. Let alone their Earth Spirit sect and the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds. But even all the organizations that had come today did not possess a single disciple talented enough to defeat a person on the overgod's plaque. However, the three elders from the Taoist sect of Calm Cloud burst into laughter instead when they heard the words of the elders from the Earth Spirit sect. Elder Song looked at the elders from the Earth Spirit sect like they were idiots and scoffed. Our Taoist sect of Calm Clouds is nowhere near as mighty as your Earth Spirit sect, purposefully becoming enemies with people on the overgod's plaque. Our Taoist sect of Calm Clouds would much rather try to get on the good side of those prodigies, so why would we purposefully offend them? Only a brainless idiot would do something like that. The elders from the Earth Spirit sect turned crimson with rage, as their fury rose from what Elder Song had said. Below, the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect also exhibited ugly expressions, as the trouble they had caused made the three elders suffer humiliation from the people of the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds. They felt shameful and wronged. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, it's all because of you. I, Chen Chun, will remember you. I will make you pay 1,000-fold for the humiliation our Earth Spirit sect has suffered in public today. Thought the woman with the fan stood within the crowd. Her eyes were extremely cold. At that moment, her hatred towards Jianchen really had reached an unprecedented level. The experts in the hall watched on as if they were watching a show. The grievances between the Earth Spirit sect and the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds did not get in the way of their interests, so they naturally would not interfere with the matter. Moreover, none of them would ever offend an overgod on the overgod's plaque for no reason, provided they did not get in the way of their interests too much. This was because if someone like that matured successfully, they would become a dominant figure in the saints' world as long as no accidents happened. There were quite a few people who had developed a deep interest in Jianchen. I never thought that in just a few decades, Jianchen would become someone who can make the overgod's plaque. Weiner Yin was also in the crowd, gathered with the overgods there. After hearing the elder's judgment of Jianchen, he became extremely dejected. Oh right, I wonder if the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is here. If you are, please show yourself. The three of us admire you greatly. Suddenly, one of the elders from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds said to the overgods below. He smiled as he spoke politely, scanning through the crowd in the meantime. With that, many elders from powerful organizations focused their attention on the group of overgods. They also became somewhat curious. Only the three elders from the Earth Spirit sect remained seated there with pale faces. They were furious inside. However, no one stepped forward under the gazes of all the elders from large organizations. At this moment, an elder of the Tianyuan clan entered the hall under the lead of the Royal Divine Army. He reported to the Divine King that Jianchen was unable to make it. With that, everyone seemed to understand why no one had stepped forward, and they no longer thought too much about it. However, the three elders from the Earth Spirit sect naturally developed hatred towards Jianchen after they had been completely made fun of by their enemies, the people from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds. It was all because of Jianchen's matter. Elder Mu immediately snorted coldly and said, Jianchen sure is haughty. At such an important time, he's bold enough to miss the meeting. Does he think he's a supreme God King who has made it onto the God King's throne? He's looking down on the lot of us. Since Jianchen possesses the strength to make it onto the overgod's plaque, he'll definitely be extraordinary as well when he becomes a God King. He does have some right to look down on us. However, the Divine King clearly sent out orders 3 days ago, yet he still dared to not come. He's looking down on the Divine King. Elder Fong from the Earth Spirit sect said steadily. Not only had he antagonized Jianchen against all the God Kings present, but he had also pulled the Divine King into the matter as well. The God Kings present all remained seated where they were. Their faces remained unchanged by what he had said. Naturally, they understood that the people from the Earth Spirit sect were antagonizing Jianchen on purpose in an attempt to use everyone against him. However, with their identities and knowledge, it was impossible for them to be provoked by a few words and start acting just like the elders wanted them to. The Divine King on the throne waved his hand and dismissed the elder from the Tianyuan clan. He did not become angered at all by Jianchen's absence. He said calmly, Since Jianchen can't make it, let's just start the meeting. May I ask if you have plans against the attacks from the Empyrean demon cult? Chapter 1911. The miracle with Kaya. Clearly, Jianchen's absence did not affect the meeting at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of people did not even take note of it. Most of the experts gathered here today did not originate from the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Jianchen's absence from such an important meeting was not disrespecting them, but the Divine King. After all, the Divine King was the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. However, the Divine King did not seem to care at all. He would definitely become displeased and maybe even furious if an ordinary overgod missed such an important meeting. However, Jianchen held a special position in his heart. Time passed silently, and unknowingly, half a month had already gone by. Everything with the Tianyuan clan in the provincial city remained the same. The fact that a war was about to erupt at a fortress on the boundaries of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian did not seem to influence the place much at all. However, everyone in the clan was on their highest state of vigilance. They could activate the formation in the Forbidden Grounds at any time. At this moment, a tremendous pressure suddenly permeated the Forbidden Grounds of the clan. In a single instance, it engulfed the entire place before rapidly expanding further. At this crucial moment, the formations in the Forbidden Grounds activated. They stacked upon each other and covered the entire place, firmly locking in the powerful presence within the forbidden grounds. In the forbidden grounds, everyone who had come up from the lower world had already gathered together. They were staring at the person they had encircled, Kaya in her blue dress, with shock and disbelief filling their faces. The appearance of the presence had drawn their attention immediately. Only then did they look away from Kaya and stare towards the depths of the forbidden grounds, at the door that led straight underground. "Brother has broken through again," Sacred Feather murmured in delight. "Big Brother is emerging from seclusion. Will he leave the clan again after that?" Xiaoling said reluctantly. Everyone immediately departed for where Jianchen would emerge. They all felt eager, wondering just how great Jianchen's strength would become after this breakthrough. After all, Jianchen was already able to achieve invincibility among overgods before he had broken through. It had even been rumored he could make it onto the overgod's plaque. In the very depths of the forbidden grounds, the door slowly opened and finally revealed Jianchen. He had now formally reached the 11th layer of the chaotic body. His entire body possessed explosive power. This power gave Jianchen great confidence. He was now bold enough to directly stand up to God Kings. God Kings were peak existences within divine kingdoms. In a huge divine kingdom, there would only be a handful of God Kings. Even in ancient empires, God Kings were great people who could act as they wished. Now, Jianchen felt like he was powerful enough to take on God Kings. Perhaps due to the fact that he had just broken through, but he was unable to contain his presence as he wished, so a tremendous pressure radiated from him. The pressure was so powerful that the air around him seemed to freeze. Many people outside the secret room even found it difficult to breathe, as if they were suffocating. It was as if they were not facing a person right now, but an imposing, unscalable mountain. Just facing it made them feel insignificant. Is he an overgod or a God King? At this moment, the same thought crossed the heads of many people. In particular, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu were amazed when they saw the current Jianchen. They had basically watched Jianchen grow from a puny saint ruler in the past to his current level. "Jianchen, you've finally emerged. Check Kaya quickly," Shangguan Mu'er said with a sense of urgency as well as some shock and disbelief. Jianchen immediately looked at Kaya after that, but in the next moment, his pupils narrowed suddenly, and disbelief filled his face. "How is this possible? Kaya, you've gone from a saint emperor to reciprocity in the span of half a month." Jianchen cried out as if he had just seen a ghost. Half a month ago, Kaya was still a saint emperor, but now, she had actually managed to break through receival and returnance to arrive at reciprocity. Moreover, she was at late reciprocity. Jianchen felt like he was dreaming when he thought about her speed. He found it rather difficult to believe. Kaya was also very doubtful about how she could cultivate so quickly. She said as she wondered, "I don't know what happened either. I just discovered that cultivation was extremely easy once I woke up. I didn't encounter any bottlenecks, and I absorbed the origin energy in the divine crystals extremely quickly as well. I can drain a divine crystal in just a few seconds." Maybe it's because you ingested all those heavenly resources? The only reason that Jianchen could think of after Kaya's elaboration was that she had ingested a god-tier heavenly resource. However, the Void Cloud Flower's greatest effects were to heal the soul, while its effects on increasing cultivation were almost insignificant. Kaya's strength should not have soared so drastically. Moreover, even if the Void Cloud Flower could increase cultivation, it was impossible for it to be so quick, making a Saint Emperor reach late reciprocity in just half a month. Alright, Jianchen, I've already grasped the power of laws. If it were not for the fact that I ran out of divine crystals, I think I would be a deity already, Kaya continued. With that, the power of laws gathered and coiled around her. It caused her to flicker with black light as the laws surrounded her. This is the laws of destruction. Jianchen cried out in a daze. He was in disbelief. Jianchen was not the only one. When Kaya's laws appeared, everyone nearby became dumbfounded. They stared at the laws of destruction that coiled around her in a daze as their hearts churned. God-level laws. How is this possible? Jianchen was taken aback. At that moment, the shock he felt had peaked. In just half a month, not only had Kaiya's cultivation increased by an unbelievable amount, but her even comprehension of laws had progressed beyond belief. The power of laws was the key to godhood. In the saints' world, there were countless Origin Realm experts who would get stuck at this stage, unable to comprehend the laws of the world even if they devoted their entire lives to it. This was more than enough to illustrate the difficulty of comprehending laws. However, not only had Kaiya comprehended laws so easily, but the laws of destruction she currently displayed had also completely exceeded the levels of deities. It had reached the levels of gods. If this managed to make it out, even the entire saints' world would be in shock, let alone the cloud plane. Kaiya, how did you do it? How did your comprehension of laws suddenly reach such a level? Jianchen asked as his heart trembled. I don't know why. I just naturally grasped the laws when I cultivated. Kaiya was puzzled as well. Chapter 1912. Charging to the front lines. You just naturally grasped the laws. Jianchen was stunned and amazed. It was of the utmost difficulty for other people to comprehend laws. It was extremely difficult for even Jianchen to make any progress with his laws of the sword. However, from Kaiya's words, it seemed like comprehending laws for her was an extremely easy matter that did not require any effort at all. Even the prodigies raised with the full support of great sects and clans were not able to do something like that. Kaiya, since you have such talent, there's even more reason for you to cultivate arduously. Any extra strength you have is power that you can use to protect yourself. The divine kingdom of Pingtian won't be peaceful for the next period of time, Jianchen said to Kaiya seriously. He took out a large number of divine crystals and handed them all to her. Moreover, he still had 3 overgod level cores left over after he broke through to the 11th layer. He gave her one of them. Kaiya's situation was unique. Everyone else's cultivation was higher than hers, but due to their limited comprehension of the laws of the world, they were unable to break through. However, Kaiya's comprehension of laws had already reached the level of gods, while her cultivation was simply too lackluster in comparison. It was only at late reciprocity. If she had enough resources, she could become a god in a single breath. As a result, Jianchen gave Kaiya quite a lot of divine crystals this time. It was more than enough for her to become a god. Kaiya wanted to decline instinctively when Jianchen gifted her things selflessly. However, after a period of hesitation, she accepted them in the end. Everyone talked some more afterwards before they directly arrived at the main topic. Shangguan Mu'er said to Jianchen sternly, Jianchen, the 3 armies of the Empyrean demon cult have already arrived at the fortress on the border. The Divine King has already led all the experts to the front lines. Before he left, the Divine King sent a messenger, telling you to immediately go and provide support once you emerge. Jianchen immediately became sterner. Is the war starting? Brother, I'll go with you. Sacred Feather arrived beside Jianchen while his eyes shone with battle intent. Jianchen frowned slightly. He said, the Empyrean demon cult has sent 3 large armies this time, so they're clearly serious. It's extremely dangerous this time. I think even god kings will die, and overgods will struggle to protect themselves. As a result, I don't want you to take part in the battle this time. I will go to the front lines by myself. No. Brother, I must participate. I have comprehended the ways of slaughter. Going through difficult battles of life or death are only beneficial to me. Moreover, I'm already a god now and a peak god at that. Coupled with my natural abilities, I believe I can even put up a fight against overgods, Sacred Feather said firmly. Battle intent surged from him as his blood seemed to boil. Jianchen, all of us have witnessed much blood and death. Although we understand that you don't want us to take part because you're concerned about us, the battle this time will also be a type of training at the same time, said Houston. Jianchen, ever since I came to the Saints' world, I haven't been able to exercise my body in battle at all. This time you have to let us get some exercise in battle. At the same time, you can show off the strength of the Tianyuan clan. Heiyu said as well. He immediately obtained Rui Jin and Hong Lian's support with his words. I want to go this time as well. With my current strength, I can help you at crucial times. Moreover, My zither will be even more effective in large-scale battles, Shangguan Mu'er said as well. She was extremely skilled with the zither, and she could use sound and music to disorientate the souls of people. She could even change the course of a large-scale battle. There must be someone who remains in the clan. Mu'er, your existence hasn't been revealed yet, so don't come with me this time. It's best if you stay and protect the clan. We should display our clan's strength when we need to and hide it when we don't have to. It won't be good if other people understand the exact strength of our Tianyuan clan, said Jianchen. In the end, Jianchen only left with a fraction of the people present. Ando Fu, Mo Ling, and the other regular elders all stayed behind. He only took Sacred Feather, Houston, Rui Jin, He Yu and Hong Lian with him. As for Shun Jian and the other elders from the world of Forsaken Saints, they all remained in the clan. Newbies and Shiyu remained in seclusion. Jianchen did not disturb them. The next morning, a huge flying vehicle slowly rose up from the Tianyuan clan. It carried many experts in the Dong'an province and shot off at full speed. Below, there were countless people in the city who bid farewell to them. They wished them good luck as they prayed inside. Shangguan Mu'er and the others also stared at the flying vehicle that gradually traveled away from the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan. They remained gathered for quite a while. Let's hope they can return safely. Everyone prayed inside. Although the people going to the front lines were not weak, the battle this time was just too great after all. There were quite a few god kings taking part, so even overgods could not necessarily protect themselves. In the sky, the flying vehicle shot off at full speed. The endless stretch of clouds formed a boundless carpet of white. The fierce wind whistled, but a light screen around the vehicle stopped all of it. No matter how fierce the wind blew, it was unable to shake the vehicle at all. Jianchen sat at the very front of the vehicle in white clothes. His eyes were closed as he meditated like an old monk. A powerful presence would emanate from Jianchen and pass through the light screen around the vehicle, directly filling the surroundings and scaring off the beasts that roamed the wilderness. Behind him, Houston, Sacred Feather, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu sat like that as well. They were just like statues. Aside from them, there were over a dozen gods on the flying vehicle. They were all the ancestors of the powerful clans in the provincial city. At this moment, all the ancestors gazed towards Houston and the others who sat in front of them. They studied them carefully as they secretly felt surprised. I heard there's an extremely mysterious forbidden grounds in the Tianyuan clan. These people should all be from there. The Tianyuan clan really is hiding their strength. The ancestors of the powerful clans thought to themselves. Whenever they saw Houston and Sacred Feather, they would shiver. They understood very well that Houston and Sacred Feather were no ordinary gods. After several hours of flying, Jianchen and the others finally arrived at the fortress on the boundary. Before them, the black city walls stood like a slumbering dragon, creating a grand and imposing sight. Countless complicated and profound formations were carved into the wall, flickering with light. An extremely tremendous amount of energy pulsed from the walls, shaking up the surroundings and even making space ripple. There was an extremely dazzling light screen that stretched from the ground towards the clouds before the city walls, forming a barrier. It separated the place into two worlds. Within the walls, the sun illuminated the place and shone brightly, filling it with a righteous spirit. Beyond the walls, black clouds and demonic auras filled the skies, sending the whole world into darkness. It gave off a cold presence that was just chilling. They were separated by just a single wall. Yet it seemed like two completely different worlds. Everyone opened their eyes on the flying vehicle and stared down sternly. Jianchen's eyes shone brightly. He seemed to be able to directly see through the darkness and look beyond the city walls. He clearly saw the three armies that had gathered at three bases. State your identities. Just as Jianchen's flying vehicle approached the fortress, over a dozen women and men in azure clothes arrived to block them. They all possessed extraordinary strength, with the weakest being gods and the leader being an overgod. They stood in the sky and encircled the flying vehicle that Jianchen rode. Their cold eyes were filled with caution. Chapter 1913. Luo Yunfei. Jianchen did not stand up on the flying vehicle. He studied the group of people who surrounded his aircraft calmly. Jianchen had never seen any of them before, including the overgod. Moreover, their attires were basically all the same, so they were clearly an organization that originated from beyond the divine kingdom of Pingtian. We are people from the Dong'an province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. This is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Sir Jianchen. Before Jianchen could say anything, one of the gods seated towards the back spoke up. His gaze towards Jianchen was filled with uncontainable admiration. All the people in the surroundings became surprised when they heard the god's words. At that moment, all of them stared at Jianchen, who sat leisurely at the front. You're the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen? The eyes of the overgod shone as he studied Jianchen seriously, as if he wanted to understand him completely. All of them were familiar with the name Jianchen, patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. In reality, the most popular conversation topic among the overgods was not the three armies of the Empyrean demon cult or the upcoming war. Instead, it was about the overgod that had suddenly shown up in the backwater divine kingdom. This person was naturally Jianchen. Jianchen had already become renowned since his battle against the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect. He had even been labeled as someone who possessed the strength to make it onto the 3,000 overgods plaque. The 3,000 names on the overgods plaque did not come from a single region or plane. Instead, it came from across the entire Saints world. Just how many overgods were there across the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets? To overcome such a tremendous number of people and make it onto the overgods plaque as one of the 3,000 most powerful overgods in the entire Saints world was a huge honor. As a result, Jianchen's name naturally spread extremely quickly among the overgods, attracting the attention of many people. Who's the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen? At this moment, a lazy voice rang out. A young man who seemed around 20 years old flew up from below. With his arms across, he stood directly in front of the flying vehicle that belonged to the Tianyuan clan. He studied Jianchen in a somewhat flippant manner. Moreover, he was clearly standing slightly higher than the flying vehicle, so it seemed like the young man was looking down on the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. Greetings, Senior Luo. Greetings, Protector Luo. The arrival of the young man immediately caused the people around Jianchen to bow politely. Protector Luo nodded slightly. With a wave of his hand, he silenced everyone. However, his gaze remained fixed on Jianchen for the entire time while the corner of his lips curled into an unserious smile. He seemed to be interested. Are you the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan who has cropped up recently? Protector Luo said while he looked at Jianchen with a sliver of arrogance on his face. That's right, I'm the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen. Sir, please give way. Jianchen clasped his fist towards Protector Luo. He did not speak particularly politely or rudely. A sliver of cold light flashed through Protector Luo's eyes. His smile remained the same, and his expression did not change. He said, in the recent days, your name has been as prominent as thunder. I've heard about you so much that my ears are going to become calloused, if that's possible. Many people have rumored that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is powerful enough to make it onto the overgod's plaque. I am Luo Yunfei from the sword sect of the Azure Clothed of the Tai Empire. I hope I can witness the patriarch's skills. I hope the patriarch is willing. Luo Yunfei backed off slightly, and an extremely thin sword shaped like a willow leaf appeared in his hand. Luo Yunfei's presence suddenly changed now that he had the sword in his hand. He gave off a powerful and sharp sword intent. The power of the laws of the sword revolved around him, forming a flock of tiny sword chi that rapidly revolved around him. Jianchen raised an eyebrow. He could not help but properly study Luo Yunfei. This was the first time he had come across an overgod who used the laws of the sword apart from Ling Hogong. And this person had even reached late overgod. As soon as Luo Yunfei's presence expanded, it alarmed countless people below. Immediately, many overgods from various organizations flew up from below. Even a few god kings had started paying attention to the situation. Everyone, didn't you want to see Jianchen? This is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan from the Dong'an province of our divine kingdom of Pingtian, Jianchen. The Grand Imperial Protector had gathered with all the overgods in a grand divine hall. He smiled as he said these words to everyone. The god kings around had become interested in the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, who was said to possess the strength to make it onto the Overgod's plaque long ago. They all became interested when they heard the Grand Imperial Protector's words, and they sent over the presences of their souls. Haha, he really is worthy of being someone who can make it onto the Overgod's plaque. Even though Jianchen has not attempted it yet, so his name isn't on there, just his presence itself is quite extraordinary. An elder from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds praised. The faces of the 3 elders from the Earth Spirit sect near him darkened. They became twisted. By now, the surroundings of Jianchen's aircraft could be described as completely crowded. A large number of overgods and gods had gathered there. They all studied Jianchen with a strange light in their eyes. There was curiosity, doubt, suspicion, disapproval, and so on. So this is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen, the person known to be able to make it onto the Overgod's plaque. What person known to be able to make it onto the Overgod's plaque? That's just what people who don't know anything about the Overgod's plaque have said. With the entire Saints world in perspective, there is only a total of 3,000 people that can make it on there. Every single one of them is a great prodigy. I don't believe a backwater place like the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian can produce someone like that. Yes and no. We'll know once he fights Luo Yunfei of the Sword Sect of the Azure Clothed. We have all witnessed Luo Yunfei's strength. Although he's not enough to make it onto the Overgod's plaque, there are not many people who can defeat him among Overgods. That's right. Senior Luo is the most powerful. He's the strongest Overgod in our Sword Sect of the Azure Clothed. Many elders have praised him. Let's wait and see. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan definitely isn't his opponent. Everyone discussed with each other softly. A few female disciples of the Sword Sect of the Azure Clothed waved their fists as their eyes shone. They adored their senior as they cheered him on. However, Jianchen did not move at all. He stared at Luo Yunfei calmly and said, "I've come here to repel the Empyrean demon cult, not to spar with you." Now that Jianchen's chaotic body had broken through, he was on a completely different level compared to Luo Yunfei. He really was not interested in sparring with Luo Yunfei at all. Chapter 1914. Spar. However, the meaning of Jianchen's words became twisted when some people in the surroundings heard them. Many people who doubted that Jianchen possessed the battle prowess to make it onto the Overgod's plaque became even more confident in their thoughts. Luo Yunfei of the Sword Sect of the Azure Clothed is famous in the Taiye Empire. Not only is he a direct disciple of one of the sect's ancestors, but his talent also makes him a unique existence within the southern region as well. He has even been named the strongest overgod in the Taiye Empire. Does Jianchen know about Luo Yunfei's strength, which is why he is not brave enough to spar with him? That must be the case. Jianchen just possesses some unearned reputation. After just some sentences from those people who have no knowledge of the Overgod's plaque at all, everyone else has been convinced that he can really make it onto there. In reality, he's not even Senior Luo's opponent. I'm certain that if Jianchen accepted the spar, Senior Luo would beat him to a pulp. The people who watched on in the surroundings all discussed softly. Many people looked at Jianchen with deep disdain. On the other hand, the handsome Luo Yunfei who wore azure clothes and held a thin sword earned the cheers from many people. Some of the beauties from a few large organizations would even gaze at him lovingly, having been deeply attracted by his presence. It left them infatuated. Not only did Luo Yunfei possess extraordinary talent, but he was also a direct disciple of the ancestor of the Sword Sect of the Azure Clothed as well. His status was so great that he even surpassed the princes of the Taiye Empire. Naturally, the female disciples from other organizations were closely attracted to Luo Yunfei, who had an extraordinary background. A sliver of arrogance appeared on Luo Yunfei's face as he heard the discussions around him. He looked at Jianchen from above and said, "So many of us have hurried over from distant lands. Naturally, it's all for repelling the Empyrean demon cult. However, having a spar before the war begins won't affect the battle at all. Instead, it'll entertain everyone while they have time to spare." Luo Yunfei did not back off at all. Instead, he drew closer as if he would not let Jianchen pass if they did not spar. He had already made up his mind. He would defeat the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan before everyone today, so that everyone would stop spreading rumors that this fellow could make it onto the Overgod's plaque. Moreover, he would let everyone know that making it onto the Overgod's plaque was not that easy. This was because several dozen years ago, he himself had ventured to the central region and attempted to make it onto the Overgod's plaque with great ambition. However, he ended up leaving in failure. He was nowhere near close to making it onto the Overgod's plaque. As a result, he naturally did not wish to see an untested person being labeled, as if they had already made it onto the plaque. That would basically mean he, Luo Yunfei, was not as great as them. "Looks like you're determined to spar with me," Jianchen said. He remained seated on the flying vehicle. His gaze was calm, and his face did not change at all. "If that's the case, I'll spar with you. However, the war is of utmost importance, so to avoid any delays, let's limit the sparring to a single move." Limit it to a single move? Luo Yunfei frowned when he heard that. Although he was confident that Jianchen did not possess the strength to make it onto the Overgod's plaque, he had still defeated the two protectors of the Earth Spirit sect by himself after all. Achieving victory against him in a single move would definitely be difficult. What? Limit it to a single move? Isn't the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan simply too sly? He knows he's not Senior Luo's opponent, so he wants to limit the spar to a single move. That way, even if Senior Luo is far more powerful than him, it's impossible to determine victory as they're both late Overgods after all. A female protector from the sword sect of the Azure-Clothed scoffed. The people in the surroundings nodded to themselves. The woman's words did make sense. "If you can move me at all in a single move, it'll be my loss. How about that?" Jianchen continued. He slowly rose up and left the aircraft. With Luo Yunfei's strength, there are barely any people who can remain still after he strikes out with his full strength. Jianchen is going to lose for sure. However, seeing how he defeated the protectors from the Earth Spirit sect, even if he's not as great as Luo Yunfei, he can't be too far off. Luo Yunfei will definitely be able to move Jianchen in a single strike, but he might not necessarily be able to injure him. As a result, Jianchen won't suffer a horrific defeat even if he loses. An overgod who also came from a large sect said from within the crowd. In a prolonged battle, Jianchen will definitely be reduced to an extremely horrific shape, which was why he set such a condition. He's just trying to protect his own pride as much as possible, so he won't have to suffer a horrible defeat. Ha, interesting. It sure is interesting. Even without fighting, Jianchen, who is supposed to be able to make it onto the Overgod's plaque, is already ready to lose. Sacred Feather, Houston, Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu all remained seated on the flying vehicle. They stared at Jianchen calmly. They were all extremely confident in him. They all understood Jianchen. They knew that since Jianchen had made a bet like that, he possessed complete confidence. Alright. We'll set the limit to one move. I hope you don't disappoint me, Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. Luo Yunfei agreed straightforwardly. Although limiting it to a single move had basically removed the chance of teaching Jianchen a fierce lesson, disproving Jianchen's greatness was basically achieving his goals as well. Natural Sword of the Azure-Clothed Sleeves. Sword chi surged from Luo Yunfei. He lifted his thin sword. After crying out, he began to swing his sleeves wildly. As he did that, huge gusts of wind were created. The entire world seemed to have come to a halt in that moment. At the same time, an extremely resplendent sword chi appeared where his sleeves were. It directly shot towards Jianchen with a frightening might that was enough to make all the overgods present turn pale. Natural Sword of the Azure-Clothed Sleeves was a battle skill the founding ancestor of the sword sect of the Azure-Clothed created. It was extremely powerful. Not only was it the greatest battle skill Luo Yunfei possessed, but it was also one of the peak battle skills from the sword sect of the Azure-Clothed. In order to defeat Jianchen cleanly, Luo Yunfei used the strongest battle skill he knew without any hesitation. Jianchen only extended a finger at the sword chi. Powerful sword chi condensed, shining with brilliant white light, causing the onlookers to close their eyes involuntarily. The power from the laws of the sword disturbed the senses of their souls as well, disabling that too. Boom. Many people failed to see Jian Chen's move. All they heard was a deafening sound, and sword chi scattered in all directions like rain. All the overgods in the surroundings had to fend them off seriously. When the white light dispersed, Jian Chen and Luo Yunfei remained standing where they were. Both of them were seemingly unharmed. Jian Chen had not even taken half a step back. Impossible. Did the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan really block Luo Yunfei's strike? Someone cried out as they struggled to believe what had happened before them. Clearly, many people found this outcome to be extremely surprising. This Jian Chen defeated two late overgods in the past after all. That's nothing surprising, but looking at it now, he's equal to Luo Yunfei. Looks like he's still quite far from being able to make it onto the overgod's plaque, an overgod commented. It has been one move. I can pass now, right? Jian Chen hovered in the sky as his white robes fluttered in the wind. He spoke calmly. On the other side, Luo Yunfei slowly concealed his presence. He stared at Jian Chen deeply without any expression at all, and clasped his hands. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan really lives up to his reputation. You have my admiration. With that, Luo Yunfei turned around and left. A few of the overgods present looked at Luo Yunfei as he left. They were suspicious and became doubtful. Why did Luo Yunfei seem like he was cowering? At this moment, in the luxurious room that belonged to Luo Yunfei within the divine hall from the sword sect of the Azure Clothed, Luo Yunfei stood there all by himself. He rubbed his neck and his clean, white hand became covered with blood. Luo Yunfei entered a daze as he stared at the blood on his hand. Only after quite a while did he murmur, "The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is actually so powerful." Chapter 1915. Entering the main hall, Luo Yunfei could not help but think about what had happened when he clashed with Jian Chen. The strike was short, occurring in just a split second, but only Luo Yunfei out of all the people present understood its danger. He had used his most powerful battle skill, but not only had it been dispersed in a single strike by the patriarch, but the sword chi from the patriarch had even directly engulfed him, and left behind a wound that was invisible to the naked eye on his neck. He was completely powerless against it. If it were not for the patriarch's mercy, he would have already been beheaded. At this moment, the door to Luo Yunfei's room opened. A middle-aged man that had quite a striking appearance walked in. He also wore azure clothes. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan really is powerful. There is probably just a handful of people that can really put up a fight against him among all the overgods. He does indeed possess the strength to make it onto the overgod's plaque. Yunfei, I hope you remember your defeat well. Even if you're the prodigy of the sword sect of the Azure Clothed, you must not become arrogant. I believe in the future, you will also possess strength equivalent to the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, and your name will be recorded on the overgod's plaque, the middle-aged man said to Luo Yunfei sincerely. I will commit Elder Cheng's words to heart. Luo Yunfei bowed at the middle-aged man out of complete respect. Although his master was the ancestor of the sect, in reality, many of the elders had guided him before. They had really poured all their resources into him. Outside, Jian Chen returned to the flying vehicle. He remained seated at the very front, leaving with the people from the Dong'an province under the gazes of everyone. He directly headed to the base camp. This time, no one stood forward to block their way. No one managed to see the hidden danger within the strike Jian Chen had dealt to Luo Yunfei. So many people still believed Jian Chen was not Luo Yunfei's opponent. However, he still managed to receive Luo Yunfei's attack perfectly after all, which had shown off his strength. There was only a handful of overgods who sensed that something was amiss from how Luo Yunfei had basically fled. However, they clearly did not think that Luo Yunfei had been defeated. Just when Jian Chen was about to approach the base camp where all the organizations gathered with the people from the Dong'an province, many overgods from the divine kingdom of Pingtian flew up from below. They exchanged pleasantries with Jian Chen while smiling. Jian Chen put the flying vehicle away. He took the people from the Dong'an province with him, as he made his way around with the overgods from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. He would look around from time to time. The camp within the fortress was extremely large. It was basically stuck to the wall for several dozen kilometers. He was unable to see the end of it. Not only were the huge armies of the divine kingdom of Pingtian gathered there, but the armies from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, divine kingdom of 9 stars, divine kingdom of scarlet clouds, divine kingdom of Balaj, divine kingdom of Cayenne, divine kingdom of Datian, and divine kingdom of Ethercloud had gathered there as well. As a result, the number of soldiers in the fortress had reached into the 100 millions. All the armies from the divine kingdoms gathered in one location. This would have never happened under ordinary circumstances, but in order to stop the advance of the Empyrean demon cult, they had all thrown aside their thoughts of territory and personal interests. In the end, Jianchen and the others were taken into a divine hall. After Xiandou and the others explained it to him, Jianchen understood there were quite a few of these divine halls in the military camp. The relationships between all the major organizations that had come this time were complicated. There were grievances and friendships between many of them. Naturally, they could not stay together. They all possessed their special divine halls. The divine hall that Jianchen was in right now belonged to the divine kingdom of Pingtian. All the people who possessed some status in the divine kingdom had gathered here. To no surprise, Yang Kai and a few elders from the Yang family were here as well. Jianchen was already someone influential, so the overgods who stayed within the divine hall immediately rose up and welcomed him when he arrived. Only the people from the Yang family remained where they were. Sacred Feather, Houston, Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu, who had come with Jianchen, naturally attracted quite some attention as well. They roughly understood the strength of the Tianyuan clan, so it was no secret what cultivation level the elders of the Tianyuan clan possessed. Now that 5 unfamiliar faces had suddenly appeared, many of them naturally became curious. In particular, Sacred Feather and Houston left many of the present overgods secretly surprised from the vague presence they emitted. At this moment, the Grand Imperial Protector of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian walked in from outside, and everyone bowed at him. The Grand Imperial Protector nodded with a smile. He looked at Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, His Majesty wants you to go to the main hall. Please come with me." Afterwards, Jianchen followed the Grand Imperial Protector. They made their way towards the center of the camp, passing by Divine Hall after Divine Hall. In the end, he arrived at a hall that was located in the center of the camp under the Grand Imperial Protector's lead. The so-called main hall was equivalent to the commander's tent. It was where all the commanders and higher-ups gathered. The Divine King sat on the king's throne within the main hall with a peaceful expression. There were over 20 women and men of various ages seated to the 2 sides below him. Every single one of them emitted tremendous presences. They were extremely powerful. Jianchen's arrival attracted everyone's attention immediately. At that moment, all the people seated looked at Jianchen. Jianchen immediately felt uncomfortable. Every single one of the 20 or so gazes that gathered on him were extremely powerful, which pressured him greatly. There are actually so many god kings. Jianchen was secretly surprised when he saw the people seated to the 2 sides. It was quite a shocking sight for over 20 god kings to be seated together. Jianchen's heart churned at this sight, and he struggled to remain calm. However, when he saw the Divine King, who remained seated on his throne, he became slightly dazed. He felt slightly puzzled inside. Sure, the Divine King was a god king, but were the other people not god kings as well? Moreover, they came from great sects and clans or imperial families from empires. All of their statuses were greater than a divine kingdom's divine king. Without any exaggeration, any of the god kings present possessed a far greater status than the divine king of a divine kingdom. The divine king would have to treat them politely and with great courtesy. However, the divine king was currently seated high up as if he was greater than everyone else. The god kings from the various empires should have possessed supreme statuses, yet they sat obediently below the divine king. Seeing how calm they were, it was as if this was how things were supposed to be. Chapter 1916. Primordial Realm Expert. Looks like the Divine King isn't simple. He's bold enough to take the king's throne before the God Kings from the empires. Just that alone means that the Divine King's status far exceeds everyone else's, Jianchen thought. However, his expression did not change at all. He clasped his fist and bowed at the Divine King as well as the God Kings in the surroundings. He did not act particularly humble or arrogant. Jianchen, there's no need to be so polite. The main reason why I've called you here is so that everyone gathered here can personally see you. After all, supreme overgods that can make it onto the overgods plaque are extremely rare in the southern region of the Cloud Plain. The Divine King smiled. He spoke calmly and pleasantly. Jianchen, we all witnessed your battle against Yunfei. Your comprehension of the laws of the sword is roughly at the same level at Yunfei. The true deciding factor was the power you controlled. An azure-robed old man immediately said from the God Kings to the two sides. He was an elder of the sword sect of the azure-clothed. He had once guided Luo Yunfei, so he understood Luo Yunfei's strength extremely well. The old man continued. Fused with the power of laws, every strike you deal possesses the terrifying strength of peak overgods. It's far greater than the origin energy we cultivate. As a result, Yunfei was defeated by you in a single strike. The people in the surroundings all nodded in response to the elder's analysis. They were all God Kings, so they had witnessed all the minor details of Jianchen and Luo Yunfei's fight clearly through the senses of their souls. Jianchen shivered inside when he heard that. All of these God Kings were impressive. He had never thought that they would be able to see everything that had happened in that instance in his fight against Luo Yunfei clearly. For Jianchen to possess such a powerful energy, the legacy you possess must be extremely great. Looks like Brother Jianchen also has a great master, said Elder Mu of the Earth Spirit sect. He seemed at leisure and at ease, but he had already surrounded Jianchen with the senses of his soul. Under the perception of the senses, even though he could not see through Jianchen's true feelings, none of his movements could avoid his senses. The eyes of many of the God Kings lit up, and they stared at Jianchen casually after they heard Elder Mu's words. Whether Brother Jianchen's legacy is great, or if he has a great master has nothing to do with your Earth Spirit sect. Has his cultivation method caught the eyes of your Earth Spirit sect? Are you having some inappropriate thoughts? An elder from the Taoist sect of Calm Clouds sneered. The Taoist sect of Calm Clouds and the Earth Spirit sect formed the two great sects of the Heavenly Moon Empire, but they were always hostile with each other. They would argue wherever they went, and they would try to suppress the other at all costs. They would not show any respect towards the other party at all. Elder Mu snorted coldly. Our Earth Spirit sect is a famed sect in the southern region after all, so why would we do something like that? Moreover, our Earth Spirit sect does not lack cultivation methods. Afterwards, Jianchen naturally received the invitations from many large sects and organizations. Many people wanted to rope in a supreme overgod like Jianchen. This was because once he became a God King, he would definitely become a supreme God King and dominate. Naturally, Jianchen did not choose to join any of them, turning all the invitations down. However, Jianchen still felt a sense of danger after what happened that day. Although the God Kings did not recognize chaotic force, they could tell that his cultivation method was extraordinary through the chaotic force. It was possible that some of them had really become interested in his cultivation method. Jianchen's heart tightened after thinking up to there, as he secretly raised his vigilance. However, fortunately, he had broken through with the chaotic body. Although he was still unable to truly hold off God Kings, he could fight back to a certain degree at the very least. Boom. At this moment, a deafening sound rang out from outside. The ground shook violently. Even the main hall where all the God Kings stood shook heavily. The three commanders of the Empyrean demon cult have moved. Everyone, come with me to fend them off. The Divine King growled. With that, he stood up from his throne and quickly made his way outside. Over 20 God Kings made their way outside as well, following behind him. Meanwhile, Jianchen walked at the very back. However, as soon as Jianchen moved, he detected an extremely obscure but cold killing intent all of a sudden. It enveloped his body, making his body grow cold. Jianchen frowned. The light in his eyes flickered. Just when he wanted to find out who the killing intent had come from, it vanished suddenly. Jian Chen's face sank. He knew he had caught the eyes of some of the God Kings. Although he had no idea who it was, he was certain that person was among them. Is it the Earth Spirit sect? Jian Chen thought. However, he was not certain even though he and the Earth Spirit sect had grievances. The majestic walls of the fortress on the edge of the Divine Kingdom had already become crowded. Not only were the armies from several Divine Kingdoms gathered there, but there were also the members and disciples from large organizations and sections. Every single one of them gave off quite powerful presences, so when they gathered together, it swept out in an overwhelming fashion, causing the wind and clouds to churn in the sky. Jian Chen found Sacred Feather, Houston, Rui Jin, and the others on the walls. After warning them to be careful, he stood steadily with his arms crossed. He stared into the distance. Beyond the walls and the light screen, the three armies of the Empyrean demon cult all stood in formation. Black clouds surged high in the sky as demonic aura flooded the surroundings. Powerful pressures condensed and charged up. At an altitude of several hundred meters, below the black clouds, three figures hovered. Their monstrous presences were vast, possessing the might of God Kings. Under the control of these three people, the pressure surged over in an overwhelming manner. It caused space to freeze and origin energy to disperse. The light screen up ahead began to distort. Just the pressure from the three of them was enough to shake up the extremely powerful barrier of energy. Standing on the walls, Jian Chen stared at the three figures that were wrapped up in demonic auras. He could vaguely see that there were two men and one woman. He furrowed his brows tightly when he sensed the dominating presence they gave off. They must be the commanders of the three armies. They really are powerful. There's probably not a single person among the 20 or so God Kings that have come as reinforcements that can hold their ground against them all alone. I even feel like any one of them is more powerful than the God Kings I encountered on the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. Jian Chen was secretly surprised. The strength of the commanders amazed him. At this moment, the Divine King took a step out. The shaking wall of light immediately stabilized with his step. No matter how powerful the presences from the three commanders were, they were unable to shake up the light screen anymore. At the same time, an invisible presence appeared. Not only did this presence prevent the presences of the three commanders from getting any closer to the light screen, but it also forcefully pushed it back. The dragon robes on the Divine King were colorful and attention-drawing. He only stood there casually, but he seemed like he could stop all those armies. He seemed invincible. Empyrean demon cult, it's impossible for you to take over my Divine Kingdom. I urge you to leave and not make pointless sacrifices. The Divine King said indifferently as he gave off a sense of dominance. His voice was thunderous, booming through the camps of the three armies. It directly dispersed the black clouds gathered in the sky while the formations of the three armies shook, almost collapsing directly. The might of his voice was extremely terrifying. If it were slightly more powerful, it would have been enough to directly heavily injure and kill people within the three armies from the Empyrean demon cult without a doubt. Jian Chen stared at the Divine King deeply. This was not the first time he had seen the Divine King, but every time he saw him, he would feel that the Divine King was unfathomable, where he could not learn anything from him. Only when the Divine King demonstrated his might did he finally witness the tip of the iceberg. Is the Divine King an expert who has made it onto the God King's throne? After all, he was already a God King when he founded the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. The Divine Kingdom of Pingtian has existed for almost 1,000,000 years now, Jian Chen wondered. At this moment, an extremely terrifying presence suddenly appeared from behind the armies. It surged out like a volcanic eruption. Space and origin energy shook wherever it passed by while the ground below it cracked and sank. All the people on the walls of the fortress found it difficult to breathe, as if a mountain weighed on their chests and crushed at their hearts. Not only did all the overgods, including Jian Chen, experience that, but even the God Kings paled slightly before the presence. Their bodies all sank slightly. Even God Kings struggled to endure the might of the presence. In the end, the presence that had emerged from behind the armies shot towards the barrier of energy beyond the fortress walls in an extremely brutal manner. It seemed like the presence was going to shatter the barrier in a single stroke. The primordial realm. Jianchen became extremely stern. From the terrifying presence, he immediately determined that it came from a primordial realm expert. The presence was just too powerful. Just the presence alone was enough to destroy everything. It was far beyond the limits of God Kings. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.